If you are one of those students who is struggling with functions for IIT JEE Mains syllabus, this video is for you. If you watch this video towards the end, you are going to understand 10 categories of problems and lot of small strategies and manipulations how to handle JEE questions. So without any further delay, let us quickly start with it. Now let us start with syllabus comparison of 23, 24, 25. So you can see that largely the syllabus has remained same for the last 3-4 years. If I look into mind map, you can clearly see that if we will start our discussion in this chapter with definition, and after definition we'll proceed towards standard functions, then piecewise defined functions. Piecewise defined functions are especially important in calculus because most of the questions that the students can't do are fundamentally based on piecewise defined functions. Then there is algebra of domain. Then there is range. You can see that in range we are going to largely learn this 7 techniques to solve problems. Then there is classification of functions into different forms. There is composition, inverse and functional equations. All of these topics are especially important. I will take them one by one. So if I start with the first problem type, it is based on evaluation. Now these kind of questions are based on sum of arithmetic progression. So when you derive the formula of sum of arithmetic progression, the logic is that if I want to sum of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I will write them in ascending order. Then write them in descending order. And then add them. If you add them, twice of s would be equal to, all of this sum will come out to be same, 6, 6, and this will happen 5 times. We can use this idea to get the answer. Now this same thing that we have done here will also happen in this question. But before doing so, let us manipulate this fx. So in my first step, I am manipulating the fx by dividing it by 5. If I do so, this can also be written as f of x minus 1. 5 raised to the power x minus 1 plus 1. In the second part, what are we doing? We are writing the series in ascending order. So f of 1 by 20 plus f of 2 by 20. We can do this till f of 39 by 20. And as I told you, what we are going to do, we are going to reverse the order and add it one more time. So 39 by 20 plus f of 38 by 20. We will do this by f of 1 by 20. Now, as it happens in case of AP, what should happen is if I take the sum of these two, then if I take the sum of these two, and all of this sum should be same. So I will show you only for one so that you get an idea. So what we can do here is if I take f of 1 by 20 and substitute the value in this expression that we figured out earlier, it becomes 5. 1 by 20 minus 1, 5 raised to the power 1 by 20 minus 1 plus 1. So becomes 5 raised to the power minus 19 by 20. 5 raised to the power minus 19 by 20 plus 1. And if I simplify this, will become 1 upon 1 plus 5 raised to the power 19 by 20. Now if I do the same thing for 39 by 20, because we need to check whether the sum is constant or not. Now for that again, if I put the value in the same expression, this will be 39 by 20 minus 1. 5 raised to the power 39 by 20 minus 1 plus 1. So this will become 5 raised to the power 90 by 20 by 5 raised to the power 19 by 20 plus 1. Now if you add these two, what will you get? So if I figure out the value of f of 1 by 20 plus f of 39 by 20, you can see that both of this will add up. Numerator will become 1 plus 5 raised to the power 19 by 20. Denominator will become 5 raised to the power 19 by 20 plus 1. And the answer comes out to be. You can see that the first part, this will also become 1. The second part, this will also become 1. All of this will add up to 1. And on the left hand side, we have twice of s. So what you are getting in the third step is very simple. In the third step, you can clearly see that what we are getting is f upon f 1 by 20 plus f of 39 by 20. This value, if you figure out, this is coming out to be 1. And then there are twice of s. So this would be 39. 1 added 39 times. So s comes out to be 39 by 2. This is my answer. You can see that option 3 matches. If I move further, you can see that this 2022 question is almost the same question. 23 again the same question was repeated. So this is a type of category that we know how to handle now. Now let us move towards type 2 standard functions. In this, the first kind of functions that we are going to look into is modulus functions. And there we can see that this has been a current JEE trend that they will sprinkle summation here and there just to tease you out. So देखो इसमें करना कुछ नहीं है. If I write this in the first step that f of n का mod is smaller than equal to 800, what is going to happen? The value of f of n will lie between minus 800 and 800. Now we know what is the function. If I put the value, this becomes a quadratic inequality. And for that matter, there are two. For that matter, there are two. So what you can do is you can solve this separately, and then take their intersection to get the answer. So in the second part, if I just consider 2n square minus n minus 1 greater than or equal to minus 800, twice n square minus n, if I bring it on the other side, will become 799. These are the values that we are talking about. So if I write the values of n here, the roots of this will become 1 plus minus root of b square minus 4ac. You can see that the d is coming out to be smaller than 0. When d is smaller than 0, this statement is always true. So we do not need to figure out the roots of this function. Now let us move to the next one, that is the third part, where we will check it for the other side. So 2n square minus n minus 1 is smaller than equal to 800. If I bring it on the left hand side, 2n square minus n minus 801 would be smaller than equal to 0. If I find the roots, it will come out to be 1 plus minus root of b square, that would be 1 minus 4, so that will become plus 4 into 2 into 801 by 2 times a. So now it is not very difficult because this can be written as 1 plus minus root of, this is 8 into 8, 408. 6408 plus 1, 6409. Divide by 4. Now here, important thing to understand is what would be the closest integer. And if I talk about in terms of for this square root, that we need to understand. So see, if I have something like 81 into 81, let us see what do we get. So this will become 81, 864. So the value will become 1, 8 plus a 16, 5, 6. So you can see that it exceeds root of 6409. But if I multiply 80 into 80, the answer is going to be 6406. So you can say that this value will be slightly greater than. So this value will be slightly greater than 80 when I take the square root. So approximately 80 point something would be there, divided by 4. So if I take plus value, let us see what do I get. So it will become 81 point something divided by 4. And if I take the minus sign, this will become minus 79 point something by 4. So the value, if you divide this by 4, would be 20 point something. And if I divide this by 4, it would be minus 19 point something. So once you have this, now what we can say is, since this value is smaller than 0, the value of n will lie between these two. So what is happening is, if you look on the number line, what is the spread? So minus 19 will come on this side and 20 will come on this side. We are looking for values that are 19 point something. This is 20 point something. Okay, smaller than or equal to these values. If you consider these values, you can see that your minus 19 is going to come here and your 20 is going to come here. So these are the values in between. So now what the question says is, this is not the end of the question. We figured out the possible values of n. Find the value of summation of f of n for all of these values. Now once we have got this, in the next part or the third part, we have to find the summation of this. So now the values of n are from minus 19 to 20 of 2n square minus n minus 1. The summation will have to find. So now you can divide this summation into multiple parts. The first part is summation of n square from minus 19 to 20. Another part is summation of n from minus 19 to 20. And another part is summation of 1 minus 19 to 20. Now we'll find all of these values separately, substitute the value and get the final answer. So if you want to do the first part, the summation of n square from minus 19 to 20, if you write it down, see, I know a lot of people have problems with summation, so I'm writing it down systematically to help you out. So it will start with minus 19 square, minus 18 square, it will go till minus 1 square. Then there would be a 0. After that, again it will start with 1 square, 2 square, go till 19 square and then 20 square. You can see that the values from here to here and here to here are same. Only 20 square will get added towards the end. So if I write this down, this is 2 times 1 square, 2 square till 19 square plus 400. Now in order to find this value, we have a formula that we have summation of n square starting from 1 to n. The value is n into n plus 1 to n plus 1 by 6. So if I apply this, the answer that was given to me can now be easily written as 2 times n into n plus 1 would be 19 into 20 into 2 into 19 plus 1 by 6 plus 400. If you find this value, this comes out to be 10,0680 after simplification. If I figure out the value of the other part that is given to me, that is summation of n, this value if I figure out, so this can be figured out directly here. So this let us substitute. So after multiplication, I have given this value for 2n square. So let us multiply by 2 also. Let us multiply by 2 also. So if I write this value, this is 10,0680. Now this if you add, this is going to be minus 19, minus 18 till minus 1. Then 1, 2, 3 till 19, then 20. And then again we will add 1. So this every term will become 1. And these would be total 40 terms. Why 40? Because it is going from minus 19 to 20. From minus 19 to 0 there will be 20 terms, and then from 1 to 20 again 20 terms, so total 40 terms. So now if you simplify all of these values, you can see that here all of these terms are getting cancelled out. So what we have is 10680 minus 20 minus 40, and this simplifies into 10620. Now next category of problems are based on polynomials. Let us look into one of those problems. In this problem you can see that there is a quadratic expression that is given to us. Values are given corresponding to 1, minus 2 and 3. They are asking values corresponding to 0, 1, minus 2 and 3. Now let us figure out what does it mean and how to solve it. So now what we can do here is, in the first step, put the value corresponding to 1. If I put 1, a plus b plus c would be equal to 3. Second, if I put this value as 3, then what I will get is 9a plus 3b plus c is equal to 4. And ultimately, if I put minus 2, I will get the values lambda. If I put minus 2, this is 4a minus 2b plus c is equal to lambda. You can see that what we have is basically 3 different equations. We can solve and get the value of a, b, c in terms of lambda. Once we do so, all of these values will substitute in the equation ultimately given and find the final answer. So now for that, what I can do is I can subtract. There is a very simple method of doing so. I will subtract these two equations. I will subtract these two equations. If I subtract the first two, what am I going to get is 2b. So it would be 8a plus 2b will be equal to 1. And if I subtract these two, this will be 5a plus 5b is equal to 4 minus lambda. Once we have got these, basically, now we can eliminate 2 from here. So I will multiply this equation with 5. Multiply this equation with 2. Again subtract them. If I follow this process, the first part will become 40 minus 10, that would become 30 times a. The b part will get eliminated, would be equal to 5 minus 4 into 2 would become 8 plus 2 lambda. So it becomes minus 3 plus 2. So value of A comes out to be the value of A would come out as minus 3 plus 2 lambda by 30. This is what we are getting. Now we'll move forward and substitute the value of A in the first part, in the second equation, and the third equation would be easier. So 5A plus 5B is equal to 4 minus lambda. If I put the value of A, it would be 5 times minus 3 plus 2 lambda by 30 plus 5B is equal to 4 minus lambda. So if you simplify this, this comes out to be 6. So minus 3 plus 2 lambda plus 30B is equal to 24 minus 6 lambda. So now if you calculate the value of B from here, 30 times B, putting everything on the other side, would become 27 minus 8 lambda. The value of B comes out to be 27 minus 8 lambda by 30. And we are doing all of this just to get the value of C. If I put this in the first equation, A was minus 3 plus 2 lambda, because we know that A plus B plus C is equal to 3. So if I put the value of the A, this would be minus 3 plus 2 lambda by 30. The value of B is 27 minus 8 lambda by 30. This should be equal to 3. If I simplify this, if I add these two expressions, let us see what do we get. So 27 minus 3 would become 24. So this is 24 minus 6 lambda by 30 plus C is equal to 3. So if I want to get the value of C, it would be 6 lambda minus 24 plus 90 divided by 30. And this comes out to be 6 lambda minus plus 60 plus 666 by 30. See, why are we doing this? You will understand in a minute. So in my fourth step, let us go to the question. You can see that in this question that is given to me, apart from f of 0, all of the values are known. So f of 1 is already given to me. So if I write it down, f of 0 plus f of 1 plus f of minus 2 plus f of 3, this is equal to 14. So f of 0, if you find, this becomes C. F of 1, if I try and figure out, it is already given to me in the question. This is 3. This is lambda. And the last part is 4 is equal to 40. So C key value if I put here, and I could have cancelled out 6 here. So if I cancel out 6, this will become 5. So lambda plus 11 by 5. So this becomes lambda plus 11 by 5. There is 3 here, so this becomes 7 plus lambda is equal to 40. Now if I simplify, 7 can again be cancelled out, this will become 7 again. If I take LCM, lambda plus 11 plus 5 lambda would be equal to 35. So if I simplify this, 6 lambda would be equal to, if I subtract 11, will become 24. Lambda comes out to be 4. Let us check the options. So you can see that D option comes out to be. Now similar kind of questions are asked in this 2023, 22, and again this is another kind of question, but here you can see that you have to use wavy curve method. Now those who don't know wavy curve method, this might be little bit challenging. For other students it would be really simple, because we will factorize the first part to find S1. So this is x plus 2, and here if you want to factorize this, you can see that the D for this part, B square, that would be 9 minus 4AC smaller than 0. So this is always positive. So since D is smaller than 0, this part will always be positive, so we do not need to consider this. I can take out minus sign from here. This is x square minus 3x plus 2. Those who don't understand this, that why this became greater than 0, should understand the graph, that if you draw the graph of this polynomial, it would be like this, because a is greater than 0, d is smaller than 0. This is very important. These concepts have been asked in JEE multiple times. So you should know this idea, that for a quadratic ax square plus bx plus c, for this polynomial, if a is greater than 0, d is smaller than 0, this is always going to be greater than 0. Now, if you write it down, this is x plus 2. Minus sign can be taken on the other side, becomes smaller than 0. This can be factorized at x minus 1 into x minus 2. So if you draw in the first part the VV curve, let us understand how the VV curve looks like. We have minus 2, 1 and 2. Plus, minus, plus, minus. Now let us go to the second part. Second part, if you want to solve, we will have to put 3 raised to the power x s t. So this becomes t square minus 3t minus 9t plus 27 is smaller than equal to 0. If I solve this, this is t square minus 12t plus 27 is smaller than equal to 0. So I can break the middle term as t minus 9 into t minus 3 is smaller than equal to 0. So t lies between 3 and 9. Now this is not t, this is 3 raised to the power x. You can see that your x will ultimately lie between 1 and 2. Okay. Now what they are asking in the second part is, what is the union of both of these? So you can see that for the union, only thing that will get added is this endpoints at 1 and 2. So my answer will become minus infinity to minus 2. Infinity can't be included, minus 2 is included, and then 1 and 2 are also included because I have taken union. Let us see. You can see that B option matches. The next kind of question is based on exponentials. Now in exponentials, it is very important to observe, especially there could be very typical questions, very simple questions, and like what we saw earlier, where we do direct substitution and get an answer. But there could be a question like this that is based on observation. So here you can see that 81 raised to the power sine square x. What you can do in this case is, if you can observe that cos square x can be written as 1 minus sine square x, then what can happen is, this will become 81 raised to the power sine square x. This will become 81 raised to the power 1 minus sine square x is equal to 30. Now why are we doing this? Because this can further be written as 81 sine square x plus 81 by 81 sine square x. Now why is that relevant? Because now if I take this as t, this will also become t. So what is happening is, this is t by 81 by t is equal to 30. You get a quadratic equation. If I simplify this, so this becomes t square plus 81 is equal to 30 times t. And now in the second part, this can be easily simplified and solved. So becomes t square minus 30t plus 81 is equal to 0. So this can be written as t minus 27 into t minus 3. Now once you have this, the value of t comes out to be 27 and value of t comes out to be 3. So what we have is 81 raised to the power sine square is equal to 27 and 81 raised to the power sine square x is equal to 3. Now this can be very easily solved because we can compare the exponents. If I write in the power of 3, so this is 3 raised to the power 4 sine square x. This is 3 cube. Now this part is nothing but 3 raised to the power 4 sine square x. So if I compare the power, I should be able to get my answer. So in the first part, 4 sine square x. So the value of sin x comes out to be plus minus root 3 by 2. Now question very specifically talks about values that lie between 0 and pi. The corresponding values in 0 to pi would be only pi by 3 and 2 pi by 3. These are the two solutions that we'll get. If I solve the other part, it is sine square x would be equal to 1 by 4 sin x. As a result would be equal to plus minus 1 by 2. You can see that the corresponding values would be pi by 6 and 5 pi by 6. You can see that there are 4 solutions to this. That is option 2. Now let us look into another question based on log. Now there is a lot of things to be taught about log. In fact, there are lectures of mine recorded based on log. So if you are not very sure, go and watch those ones. I will put the link in the description if you want to go ahead. But in this case, what we are going to do is we are going to simply take both the log terms on the same side and apply the property of log. What we have is log of mod of sin x to the base 1 by 2 plus log of cos of x mod to the base 1 by 2. This is equal to 2. This in turn, after applying the property of log, will become mod of sin x mod of cos x is equal to 2. So what we are getting is sin x into cos x mod. And if I take this on the other part, this will become 1 by 2 whole square. You can see that if I multiply and divide by 2, this will become sin 2x by 2 mod is equal to 1 by 4. The 2 will get cancelled out. The value of sin 2x comes out to be plus minus 1 by 2. Now we can count the total number of solutions. So if I draw the graph of sin 2x, see, whenever number of solutions are asked, it is always a better strategy to do it. So you can see that it will go like this. One cycle will be over in pi, and since I am going till 2 pi, there would be 2 cycles corresponding to this. If I draw a line corresponding to 1 by 2, that line is going to intersect at 4 points. And for minus 1 by 2, again 4 points. So you can see that total number of solutions would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let us look into the questions based on greatest integer function. Now this part is something that I have seen most of the times students struggling. So we'll spend a little bit more time on it. Now let us look into this 2020 question. This question talks about a GIF equation that is written like this, and it is quite a standard one. You just need to know one property. So that property is, if inside a greatest integer function, if there is an integer, it can be taken outside. This is the property. It could be positive, it could be negative, does not matter. Now once you can do this, the equation starts looking like this: GIF whole square 2 times greatest integer function plus 4 minus 7 is equal to 0. Very simple thing that anybody would be able to observe is put GIF as t. So if I do that, this becomes quadratic. T square plus 2t minus 3 is equal to 0, which in turn can be factorized as t plus 3 into t minus 1. Now once you do that, in the third part, the value of t comes out to be 1 and the value of t comes out to be minus 3. So here, let us again resubstitute the value of t. So you can see that if I resubstitute from here, the possible values of x can be between 1 and 2. And from here, the possible values of x can be between minus 3 and minus 2. So there are infinite solutions because this is a range. So B option will come out to be correct. Now, one category of questions can be solved by putting GIF as t, but this is another category of questions where you won't be able to do that, and this is a very typical question. So how to handle this question? The first idea would be to remove this modulus sign. In the first part, when I am doing it, I will consider two cases. One, a is greater than or equal to 1 by 2. This is my case 1. If I consider this will open with a positive sign, and I have 3 times GIF of x plus 2 times fractional part of x. Now what is the technique? The technique in this, once you have removed the mod, is to break down a in terms of GIF and fractional part. So I can write this as GIF of a plus 2 times fractional part of a minus 1 is equal to 3 times GIF of a plus 2 times fractional part of a. If I simplify this, let us see. So this 2 times, this will get cancelled out. And then the value of GIF of a would be equal to minus 1. See, now this is equal to minus 1. And what we are saying that a is greater than 1 by 2. So this is not possible. Corresponding to my first case, there is no solution. Now let us move towards the next case. What we are saying is, let us say that the value of a is smaller than 1 by 2. What happens in this case? Now the mod will open with a negative sign, and then we can follow the same process that we followed earlier. Now we are going to do the same thing that we did earlier. We are going to break a in fractional part of x and gf of x. Once I do so, this is the expression that I am going to get. And if I write it down, what happens is value of minus 5 times gf of a plus 1 will be equal to 4 times fractional part of a. So the value of fractional part of a as a result comes out to be minus 5 gf of a plus 1 divided by 4. Now why is this so relevant? That you will understand in the next part. See, fractional part of a will always lie between 0 and 1. This is very commonsensical. If I put these values, minus 5 times gf of a plus 1 by 4 between 0 and 1, let us see what are the possible values of gf of a that we can get. So if I simplify, 4 will get multiplied on both the sides. Minus 5 times gf of a, this would be between 3 and minus 1, and then a comes out to be minus 3 by 5 and 1 by 5. You can see that if I am looking for an integral value, any integer between minus 3 by 5 and 1 by 5, there is only one value of that integer that is possible, that is. Once you have got this, my third step is to consider cases. Now, since there is only one value, we knew that fractional part of a can be written as minus 5 times gf of a plus 1 by 4. So we can put this value here. It comes out to be 1 by 4. And then in this, if you want to write the value of a, gf of a plus fractional part. This is my final answer. So what I get is the value of a as 1 by 4. Now if I move forward, this is not the final answer. They are saying add all of these values. So there is, since only one value, there is no need to add. 72 into 1 by 4. Answer comes out to be 80. Now type 3 questions are based on domain. In domain based question, there is a logic that is known as algebra of domain. What is algebra of domain? Whatever functions that are involved, you take intersection. So let us say that there is function 1 plus function 2 plus function 3 into function 4 divided by function 5. We will take intersection of the domains. If I do so, I get my answer. This is a very clear and very easy thing to do for most of the cases. Let us look into this 2021 question. Question says that fx is equal to root x, gx is equal to root of 1 minus x. What is the common domain of the following functions? Multiple things are given to us. Okay, where f, so they have defined it, but this is the idea. So you can see that we'll have to first find the domain of first function. So again, there is a very simple rule. If something is inside the root sign, that needs to be greater than or equal to 0. So for the first part, for function fx, the domain comes out to be, or my d1 comes out to be 0 to infinity. Now for the second part, we have 1 minus x greater than or equal to 0. So x comes out to be smaller than or equal to 1. That is minus infinity to 1. 1 is included. So if I want to find any of these, now there is one more thing we'll have to consider, and that's it. That is for in this case. So everywhere else it would be an intersection, but here you can't also take gx as 0. So if I consider these two ideas, so what will happen is, if I take the intersection, my f1 or the domain of the first function was 0 to infinity. For the next one, it is minus infinity to 1. But 1 can't be included now, because for 1 gx becomes 0 and f by g would become undefined. One more thing is, you are also writing gf of g by f. So f can also not be equal to 0. So even this point can't be included. You can see that we can take only values between 0 and 1 open. So your option C comes out to be correct. Now we can see this 2001 question is again the same thing. We'll find the domain for the numerator, denominator separately, take their intersection. Same idea. In this question of 2019, again same. Find the domain, take intersection. Nothing very complex. Same thing here with inverse function also. Find the domain, and so here again it will become even more easier because sine inverse of 2x. We'll have to consider two things. So one is this should be defined. For this to be defined, this needs to be greater than or equal to 0. This is first condition that we need to solve. And the second thing is sine inverse itself is only defined when you put values between -1 and 1. So this is interesting. So whenever composite functions are there, this one more condition gets applied. So now if I solve the first one, let us see what do I get. So sine inverse of 2x is greater than or equal to -π/6. So correspondingly, if I consider the value of 2x, it would be greater than or equal to -1/2. So x becomes greater than or equal to -1/4. This is what we are getting from here. But again, there is this restriction also that would cap x between -1/2 and 1/2. In the third step, we'll have to find intersection of both of these conditions. That if I take is -1/2 to 1/2. -1/4 would be somewhere here. So the first condition says that greater than this. The second condition says that between -1/2 and 1/2. So their intersection comes out to be these values. So answer becomes -1/4 to 1. Now this is my option A. Now this 2024 question is again based on similar kind of idea. So this I think is very much manageable. Same kind of idea, but here instead of linear they have written quadratic. But what you will have to do, I will write a hint and move forward. You will have to again put this value between -1 and 1 and simplify. This is what you will have to do, and from there you will get the domain. Similar kind of question again asked in 2022. Again, this is the same thing that we did earlier. You will have to take intersection or apply condition 2 times. So I will just write the condition for your sake. So first is 2 sine inverse x, 1 upon 4x square minus 1 by pi. This should lie between -1 and 1. This is one condition. Second is whatever is inside the sine inverse x, that should also lie between -1 and 1. And if I want to go forward and write one more, then 4x square minus 1 cannot be equal to 0. So if I take intersection of these three conditions, I should ideally get my answer. I will not solve it further because I just solved it in a question before. Similar kind of question, but a mod is added now. So just for the sake of mod, I will solve it for you. So again, mod of x plus 5 by x square plus 1 should lie between -1 and 1. So now since this quantity is positive, see this we can only do if the quantity is positive. We can multiply it on both the sides because it is positive. Otherwise, we'll have to split it into 2 and consider different cases. But in this case, it is getting simplified. So now if I want to solve, first I will consider this case, then I will consider this case. In the second part, minus x square minus 1 is smaller than or equal to mod of x plus 5. Now, in order to solve this out, it would be a same strategy to consider t as mod of x. So this becomes minus t square minus 1 is smaller than or equal to t plus 5. If I take everything on the right hand side, this becomes t square plus t plus 6 is greater than or equal to 0. That is, if you write it down, so b square minus 4ac. This is smaller. So this is always true because again, in this case, a is greater than 0, d is smaller than 0. So this polynomial is always positive. We did this earlier also. I told you this is very important. It is asked year after year. In the third part, we will take the other side. So this will become t square plus 1 is greater than or equal to t plus 4. If I simplify this, this is t square minus t minus 4 is equal to greater than or equal to 0. Now for this, if I try and figure out the roots, let us see what do we get. So your t will come out to be 1 plus minus root of b square minus 4ac, that would be 16 by 2 times a. So what are we getting? It is 1 plus minus root 17 by 2. So if I look into the values, what we are saying is this is greater than or equal to 0. So 1 minus root 17 by 2, 1 plus root 17 by 2. We are saying that either the value is going to be greater than this or the value is going to be smaller than this. Why? And now, because there is greater than or equal to 0. Now another thing that we can understand from here is, see, t is not t, t is mod of x actually. If you take this value is a negative value. So mod of x can't be negative. So these values are not acceptable. We can only consider this value. So for which, what we can say is mod of x is greater than or equal to 1 plus root 17 by 2. Now again, if I simplify this, corresponding to this, there are two solutions. So either my x would be smaller than minus 1 minus root 17 by 2, or it would be greater than 1 plus root 17. So what I am saying is a simple thing. If unable to understand, if mod of x is greater than 2, then x can be either greater than 2 or x would be smaller than minus 2. This is what I have written. Okay. So now we have got our answer. Let us check. So what they are saying is, what is the value of it? A would be 1 plus root 17. Now we understand how to do this 2023 question, but I am solving it because in this question GIF is getting involved. So the condition is same what I told you earlier. If something is inside the root, needs to be greater than or equal to 0. But since it is also in denominator, can't be equal to 0. So GIF of x ka whole square minus 3 times GIF of x minus 10, this needs to be greater than 0. Now how to solve this? So in order to solve, we will do a substitution, put this as t. So becomes t square minus 3t minus 10. So this idea of substitution will reduce this GIF based inequality into a quadratic inequality, and that we know how to solve. Now this can be easily written as t minus 5 into t plus 2 is greater than 0. You can see that if I use my VV curve, one end would be minus 2, another would be 5. It could be either greater than 5 or smaller than minus 2. Now let us go back and write it in terms of GIF of x. So GIF of x could be either smaller than minus 2. So for this, the values of x can be smaller than minus 2. This is totally fine. Now for the other end, when you're writing GIF of x is greater than 5, that would mean x needs to be greater than or equal to 6. If I take union of both of these values, it would be minus infinity to minus 2. Union 6 to infinity. And that is nothing but option A. Now more questions are given here for your practice, but again, all of these questions, this 24, 21, 22, 24 again, 2023 can be solved using similar kind of techniques that we used earlier. So there is nothing new, nothing complicated. Just apply the condition, get the answer. So we arrive at type 4, that is range based question, and here I told you that there are 7 techniques that can be used to solve questions. So what I have done is I have divided all the previous year questions into the kind of techniques we have, so that we can apply it very clearly and get to an answer. The first kind of questions are based on expressing x as a function of y. If I look into this 2019 question, it is very simple. What we are going to do in the first part is, in place of fx we will write y, x by 1 plus x square. We will cross multiply it, will become y plus yx square is equal to y. And now if I write it down, you can see that it becomes a quadratic equation in x minus x plus y is equal to 0. So once you have got this, now interesting part to here consider is how to find the range. So we'll find y in terms of x. So you can take two conditions. One, it is a quadratic, one, it is not a quadratic. So what we'll do is, if it is not a quadratic, then y will become 0. If I put y as 0, what happens to the x? So the equation will become 0 minus x is equal to 0. Value of x comes out to 0. Is value of x in the domain 0? Yeah, it is there in the domain. So this is acceptable. So in the third part, we will do when y is not equal to 0. When y is not equal to 0, this becomes a quadratic. And for quadratic to have real roots, the condition is discriminant needs to be greater than or equal to 0. So the discriminant in this case becomes b square minus 4ac should be greater than or equal to 0. So what I have is 1 minus 4y square is greater than or equal to 0. Or y square minus 1 by 4 is smaller than or equal to 0. Y minus 1 by 2, y plus 1 by 2 is smaller than or equal to 0. You can see that the values of y can ultimately lie between minus 1 by 2 and 1 by 2. And 0 is of course included because we have already checked that. So this becomes our range of this function that is given in option A. Now this 2003 question, 2023 question are exactly same kinds of questions repeated in a span of some 20 years. Now the second kind of technique on which questions are asked is using composition. So how can we use the idea of composition to solve questions? So this 2023 question, if you look into, they are saying that set A and B denote the domain and range of the function. If you clearly observe, what they're saying is not writing GIF of x here. They are writing smallest integer greater than or equal to x. What does this mean? So what does it mean is, if I'm putting the value of x as, let us say, 2.7 in this, so what will be the answer? It is an integer that is smallest but greater than this, so that would become 3. If I am putting 4.5, it becomes 5. So it is a counterpart of greatest integer function, but written like this. So what happens to this smallest integer function is, it would be equal to x when x becomes an integer. But this is going to become 1 more than greatest integer function when x is not equal to 0. Now why is this important? You will see this in a minute. Now what will happen is, if I do this question, you can see that if x becomes equal to integer, the denominator will become 0. This denominator will become 0. So this can't happen. You can see that this can't happen. So in domain, so this becomes my domain. And now if I put this not equal to 0, then what is happening here? So this can be written as GIF of x plus 1. So if I am writing smallest integer function minus x, this will become greatest integer function plus 1 minus x. And if I combine these two, this will become 1 minus fractional part of x. And if you are taking 1 minus fractional part of x, this will always be greater than 0. Since we are not putting x as integer also, obviously it is always greater than 0 and hence always defined. So your domain comes out to be, when x is not integer, it would always be defined. Second part, that is third part. Now let us look into that. Is the range of this function. See now what you have is 1 by root of 1 minus, I'm replacing it with fractional part of x. If I want to find the range of this function, first I will have to find the range of 1 minus fractional part of x. If I want to find this, I will have to find it for 1 minus fractional part of x. And if I want to find this, I will have to find this for fractional part of x. You can see that I am using the idea of composite functions to find the range. So this range lies between 0 and 1. 0 is included, 1 is not. If I subtract 1, this from 1, if I subtract 0, it will become 1. If I subtract 1, it will become 0. So this again becomes, but this open and close will get exchanged. If I put a root over it, still it will remain same. And now if I take it into the denominator, what happens? Now this is very important for you to understand, that if a function's range is given as a to b, where a and b are both positive, and somebody is asking you the range of the reciprocal, what will happen to that is, you will write 1 by b by 1 by a. As simple as that. Now in case one of them becomes negative, minus a to b, now what will happen to the range of reciprocal? So these are two common cases. Answer becomes minus infinity to minus 1 by a, and union 1 by b to infinity. You can understand this using graphs, but this is something that is very handy to remember. Once you know this, this is the first case. So my answer will become 1 by 1 comma infinity. It is saying that we can include 1. See now, when will 1 come? 1 will come when x will become an integer and x will never become an integer. So though I am writing 1 here, I can't include it. So I will have to remove this close bracket here, because the x becoming an integer is not there in the domain. So answer becomes 1 to infinity. Now let us see what they're saying. Statement 1 says that intersection of 1a intersection b is 1 to infinity minus 1, and that is absolutely correct. So statement 1 is definitely true. Statement 2 says that if I take union, it becomes 1 to infinity, not exactly true. So this statement 2 is not true. So option B comes out to be correct. Now let us do this one more time. So now in this 2023 question, what they're saying is 4 sin inverse x square by x square plus 1 is given. So what I'm saying that if I want to find the range of this function, first we'll have to find the range of sin inverse of x square by x square plus 1. And for finding this, you will have to first understand what happens to x square by x square plus 1. Okay? So this can be written as x square plus 1 minus 1 by x square plus 1, and which eventually will become 1 minus 1 upon x square plus 1. So I can see that it could easily be broken down into 1 upon 1 plus x square. And for this, I will have to know what happens to 1 upon 1 plus x square. And for this, I will have to understand what happens to 1 plus x square. And for this, I will have to understand what happens to x square, and that I know. This is between 0 to infinity. If I add 1, becomes 1 to infinity. And if I take a reciprocal, becomes 0 to 1. 0 can't be included, 1 can be included. Now, if I put minus sign, this will become minus 1 to 0. 0 is not included, minus 1 is included. Now, if I add 1 to this, this will become 1, this will become 0, and this will become 1. This is included, this is not. And then if you put this value into sin inverse x, so if you put 0, corresponding to that, you will get 0 only. For 1, you will get pi by 2. So this would be included, pi by 2 won't be included. And if you're multiplying by 4, this becomes 0, and this will become 2 pi. So 0 would be included, 2 pi won't be included. The answer becomes 0 to 2 pi. So B option comes out to be correct. Now this technique can easily be applied into this 2023 question and this question as well. Now let us move down to third technique, that is using graph to solve problems based on range. If I look into this 2023 question says that find the absolute sum of the maxima and minimum value of this function in minus 1 to 3. So we'll solve this using graph. So now if I have in the first step x square minus 5x plus 6 modulus, it can be written as mod of x minus 2 into x minus 3. So if I want to interpret this, this can be written as plus x minus 2 into x minus 3 for values of x smaller than 2. Between 2 and 3, this will open with a negative sign. And for values greater than 3, it can again have positive value. So now once you understand this, if I want to write my fx can be reinterpreted as till minus 1, because we only want to start from minus 1 to 2. It will become, now this will open with a positive sign, so will become x square minus 5x plus 6 minus 3 x plus 2. This is what we will get. For values of x that are greater than 2 but smaller than or equal to 3, we can write or open this with a negative sign. Minus x square plus 5x minus 6 minus 3x plus 2. If I simplify this, what happens to this expression? Let us see. So this will become x square is fine. Next part will become minus 8x. And next part will become 8. This is for the values between minus 1 and 2. And for the other values, it will become minus x square plus 2x minus 4. This is for values between 2 and 3. So once we have got this, in the third part, we can draw the graph. See now, if you want to draw the graph of x square minus 8x plus 8, the technique is very simple. For x square minus 8x plus 8. We'll have to first figure out the value of a, since a is greater than 0. So if I want to draw the graph of x square minus 8x plus 8, the shape is going to be like this, since the value of a is greater than 0. If I figure out the value of minus b by 2a, I will get this point. So if I figure out that would be minus b by 2a would be 8 by 2, this becomes 4. And if I put 4 here, the answer is minus d by 4a. So let us put 4, this becomes 16 minus 32 plus 8. So this is 16 minus 8. This is what we are getting. So now this is my first graph. If I want to get the second one, it is minus x square plus 2x minus 4. Now you can see that the shape is going to be like this. And in this shape, where is this point going to come? That would be minus b by 2a. So minus 2 by 2, this will become 1. So minus b, that is minus 2 minus b by 2a. This will become 1. And if I put 1 here, becomes minus 1 plus 2 minus 4. This becomes minus 3. So now once you have got both of these points, now based on this, now if I want to combine them in a common graph, let us see what happens. If I am going from minus 1, 1, 2 and then 3. If I start with minus 1, you can see that this first graph, so what you have is basically minus, this is the graph that we are looking into. And this graph is decreasing. So the maximum value will come at minus 1. If I put minus 1, the value would be 1 plus 8 plus 8. So this will become 17. So the value is 17 here. And then it will continuously decrease till 4, but we do not need to go till 4. We only need to go till 2. So it will keep on decreasing. Would be something like this. And at 2, what is the value? So if I put 2 here, this is 4 minus 16 plus 8. So you can see that the value becomes minus. So it will go down like this. You can see that this value is minus 4. Now, once we have reached here, what we can see is what is happening to the other curve. If I look into the other one, the maximum value is already at 1. So this is also decreasing because this part of the curve will come. So if I combine this, at 2, the value of this part of the function would be minus 4 plus 4 minus 4. You can see that it will start with minus 4. And if I put 3 here, let us see what will be the value. Corresponding to 3, this will become minus 9. Plus 6 minus 4. So that would be minus 7. You can see that from here and it goes to minus. This is what is happening. So what they're saying is, if you add sum of the absolute maximum and minimum value, sum of, if I take 17 and if I add minus 7 and then I take a mod, the answer will come out to be 10. So option is C option. Now, there are some questions that will become very easy if you use calculus into it. For example, this 2023 question. So, instead of doing this much, if I just differentiate this function, what will I get? It would be 1 by 2 root 3 minus x into minus 1 and 1 by 2 root 2 plus x into 1. So, if I take 1 by 2 common, answer will become minus root of 2 plus x plus root of 3 minus x divided by 3 minus x into root 2 plus x. If I put this equal to 0, so what I am trying to figure out is global maxima, global minima. If I put this equal to 0, what you are going to get is the numerator will become 0. That is root of 2 plus x will be equal to 3 minus x. Root of 3 minus x, it will be equal to 2 plus x. If you square it, 3 minus x becomes equal to 2 plus x. Twice of x is equal to 1, x becomes 1. This is what we are getting. You can see that One of the extreme values is going to come at 1 by 2. We do not know which value. But if you closely observe the question, if you look into the domain of the function, that will be 3 minus x should be greater than equal to 0. And 2 plus x should also be greater than equal to 0. X should be smaller than or equal to 3. And x should be greater than or equal to minus 2. So we know that x belongs to minus 2 comma 3. So now, since we know this, for finding global maxima, global minima, all we need to do is find the value of the function at minus 2. So if I do that and if I put minus 2, this becomes root of 5 plus 0. If I check the value at 3, it will become 0 plus root 5. And if I check the value at 1 by 2, becomes root of 3 minus 1 by 2 plus root of 2 plus 1 by 2. That will be equal to 2 times root 5 by 2. That is nothing but root 10. If you look into the range would be between root 5 to root 10. That is nothing but option D. So in questions involving functions where we can link it to the idea of global maxima and global minima, we can use this technique of derivative or calculus to find the answer. If you look into the next question, similar kind of question is given to us. So you can see that all of these questions that are given here can be solved using similar techniques. Here we'll have to do interpretation also between 0 and 1 before differentiation. But largely the technique remains same. If I look into this next question, it is based on multiple concepts. In this, you can see that there is determinant also. And then there is, after that determinant's concept of maximum minimum value is also getting applied. So what you can do here is basically first solve the determinant. For solving the determinant, what we are going to do is from row 1, I am going to subtract row 3. And from row 2 also, I am going to subtract row 3. If I do so, what are you getting? First one will become 1, 0, minus 1. Second becomes again 0, 1, minus 1. And third row remains same. Sin square x, cos square x, and 1 plus sin 2x. Once we have this, now I can expand this. So if I expand this, what am I going to get corresponding to the first row? It would be 1 plus sin 2x plus cos square x. Next term will become 0. So my fx is coming out to be, and the last will become minus times minus of sin square x. If simplified, this will become 1 plus sin 2x plus cos square x plus sin square x. Sin square x plus cos square x is equal to 1. So 2 plus sin 2x. Now you can see that finding the range of this function is not a great deal. And for that, we will have to use earlier techniques, one of the earlier techniques. So now for that, we understand that it would be easier if I draw this graph. So we know the graph of sin 2x, if I want to draw, would be 2 units shifted upwards. And it will follow the pattern of sine only. But this point would be at pi, because it is sin 2x here, not sin x. So this point will become pi by 2. I only need to find, and this value will become pi by 4. So you can see that now what is happening is if I am starting from pi by 6 to pi by 3, pi by 6 would be on this side, pi by 3 would be on this side. So there is a maxima in between happening at, so this is pi by 6 and this is pi by 3, and the graph is symmetric across both, so these will take similar values, wherein the maximum value will come at the middle point at pi by 4. So if I understand this much, and if I want to find the value, I will find value corresponding to pi by 6 and I will find value corresponding to pi by 4. If I put pi by 6, this is 2 sine pi by 3, that is 2 plus root 3 by 2. and 2 plus sine pi by 2, that comes out to be 3. So answer is 2 plus root 3 by 2. Comma 3. This is my final answer. So now we have got the value of alpha and beta. We can check the options, so we can see that B option will come out to be correct. Beta is square minus 2 root alpha. Now similar question was again asked in 2024, where you have to first simplify. There is a concept of range getting applied. Then there is a concept of sum of GP getting applied. So you can see that two different questions we'll have to solve and connect them to get the answer. Now let us look into type 5 questions, that is questions based on even odd function. Let me give you a quick recall. What are even function and what are their properties? So if you have an even function, it is defined as if you replace x by minus x, the value of the function remains same. Wherein for an odd function, in place of x, if I write minus x, the minus sign is written outside. Now in this first kind of graph, you can see that in an even functions graph, it is symmetric about y-axis. You can see that the graph on this side and this side is same. In case of odd function, it is symmetric in opposite quadrants, like that of x cube. So here and here, and here and here, the graph is going to look exactly same. Now there is a third property on which this question is formed in 2019. That property says that any function can be written as a sum of an even function and odd function. So the third property goes like this. If you have a function fx, you can write it as f of x plus f of minus x by 2 plus f of x minus f of minus x by 2. So if you add up, it becomes fx, but then this first function that is written is even. The second function written is odd. Now they are calling in this case this first function as f1x. So here in this context, f1x, if you know this underlying theory, would become f of x plus f of minus x by 2. So in this case becomes a raised to the power x, a raised to the power minus x by 2. Now once you have got this, now what they are saying is if you are writing f of 1 x plus y. So this is first part. So in the second part, if I write down f of 1 x plus y, it would be a raised to the power x plus y plus a raised to the power minus x minus y divided by 2. Wherein if we write f1 x minus y, it will become a raised to the power x minus y plus a raised to the power minus x plus y divided by 2. Now they are saying that it is equal to which of the following two expressions that is given to us. If I add them, let us see what happens. This will become f of 1 x plus y plus f of 1 x minus y, which eventually be written as plus a of minus x minus y by 2 plus a raised to the power x minus y plus a raised to the power minus x plus y divided by 2. Now what we can do is see based on the options, we can do two things. One, we can check the options. That is one way of doing it. Another thing is we can factorize it. So the two part that we have written above can be taken outside. Then if I do that, from the first two parts, that is this part and this part, you can see a raised to the power x can be taken common. So what is remaining is a raised to the power y plus a raised to the power minus y. And from the remaining two, you can see that a raised to the power minus x can be taken common. Becomes a raised to the power minus y plus a raised to the power y. Now again, this can be rewritten as 1 by 2 times a raised to the power x, a raised to the power minus x, and a raised to the power y plus a raised to the power minus y, which in turn can be written as 2 times f of f1 of x. This is 2 times f1 of y. You can see that this will get cancelled out. So this is equal to 2 times f1x plus f1. This is equal to option D. A simple question based on a property of even and odd functions. Now type 6 problems are based on injective and surjective functions. Now let us first understand what are injective. So injective function is another name for 1 function. So this is the one that students always remember, because as the name says, one element is getting mapped to one element. So if I look at from a mapping point of view, if I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, so we can see that one element is getting mapped to one element. If this happens, such kind of mapping is known as 1-to-1 mapping. One element is getting mapped to another element. See, this is one way to look into it. Another way to look into this would be if we have a 1 function and f of x1 is equal to f of x2. This can only happen if x1 is equal to x2. Then there is a third way of looking into it. 1 functions, if fx is a 1 function, then it is also a monotonic function. That would fundamentally mean f dash of x would be either greater than or equal to 0, or f dash of x would be smaller than equal to 0. Now this equal to 0 that we are talking about is happening over a point and not over an interval. So in simple terms, it would be increasing or decreasing in nature. Now the counterpart to a 1 function is a many one function. So what is a many one function? The many one function, for this we don't have a separate name, but a function where many elements are getting mapped to one element. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 again, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see that more than one element is getting mapped to an element. So many elements getting mapped to one element, hence the name many one. How do we check? Whatever is not 1 is many one. So that is like an either or kind of a relationship. Something can be either 1 or many one. Another kind of functions can be surjective functions. What are surjective functions? Another name is onto function. What onto would mean in terms of definition, codomain should be equal to range. So this is primarily a question of range only. Codomain would be given in the question. If it is given, you compare them. If it comes out to be equal, then it is surjective. In terms of a function where codomain is not given, if codomain is not given, we will assume it to be real numbers. And third, if I look at it in terms of mapping, this is how it looks like. So every element in the second set is getting mapped. So if I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is happening is every element is getting mapped. So this can also happen, 2 elements got mapped here, but there would be then 5 that gets mapped to 4, and there would also be 6 that. So you can see that none of the elements on the right set is actually free. Now another function corresponding to this is into function. How do we check into? Whatever is not onto is into. Now the into is fundamentally not onto. So a function is either into or onto. It cannot be something else. Now we will divide this into 3 major types of techniques that we use to solve problem. The first one is based on definition. So like in this 2024 question, if you look into it, it is a directly definition based question where they are asking about the 1 onto nature of the function. So now for the 1 part, we will use a technique known as counter example. So what they are saying is there is a function fn defined in such a manner that is equal to highest prime factor of n. That would mean if we are writing 6, the highest prime factor is 3. But if I am writing 9, still the answer would be 3. So you can see that many elements are getting mapped to the same element, and this is many one function. Secondly, if you look into the onto nature, it will largely depend on the codomain. So in codomain, there is a number 1. So if you look into 1, none of the elements will be ever mapped to 1. So any number, if I take 1 that I cannot take, they have removed this 1 from the domain. So what I can do is I can start with 2, 3, 4 like this, and all of them would be mapped to a prime number higher to that. So 1 will remain empty, hence codomain. Codomain is not equal to range, and this is into function. So the answer becomes B, neither 1 1 nor not. If I look into this 2022 question, it talks about a function that is given the form of 2n minus 1, n into n plus 1 by 2 for different values of n. Question says that is function 1 1 or onto. These are the things that we need to tell. So see, there are two ways to do this question. One is we can consider different values of n, categories of values of n. And another is we can have a mapping. So now if I draw mapping, let us see, this will give us a visualization of what is happening. So, and if I do at least 5, 6, 7 values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. I will have a decent idea what is happening. So let us say if I substitute 1. Since 1, this function will get followed. I will have to substitute 1 here. That will make it 1 plus 1 divided by 2. That would be equal to 2 by 2. That is 1. So 1 will get mapped to 1 only. But if I put 2, it will go into this function, will become 4. If I put 3, it will go into this function, will become 2. And if I put 4, again it will go into this function and make it 8. So 4 will be mapped to 8. If I put 5, again, and the picture is arriving. Now if I put 5 here, 5 plus 1 divided by 2 would be equal to 3. So 5 is getting mapped to 3. If I substitute 7, becomes 7 minus 1, that is 6. Now the only question is, you can see that one thing is for sure, this is 1 to 1 mapping. Every element is getting mapped to one element only. So 1 1 is sorted. So we know that this is 1 1 function. What about the onto nature? You can see that till this point of time, every element is getting mapped. This is very interesting and important. We just need to figure out whether 5 will get mapped or not, because if that gets mapped, this pattern will ultimately follow. So now for 5, if I take 8, it will not matter, but if I take 9, 9 will go into the third part. 9 plus 1 divided by 2 will become 5. So you can see that 9 will ultimately get mapped to 5. So all of the elements are getting mapped. So this is also not a function. So option D comes out to be correct. The next question that we are going to take is JEE Mains 2022 question. In this question, there are two functions given. First is f of a, which talks about alpha. So what is this function? Let us understand. It says that if you are putting 1 into it, whatever is the maximum power of the primes involved. So the maximum prime involved power would be 1. If I write 2, the maximum power of 2 is 1. So again becomes 1. If I write 3, again the answer becomes 1. If I write 4, then it becomes 2 square. So the answer is 2. So what is the maximum power of the prime? So 4 can be written as 2 square. The maximum power of the prime becomes 2. Similarly, if I write 5, in fact, they are saying that 1 you can't put into it. So let us remove the 1 part. If I put 5 in that, the answer will again become 1. And if I put 6, now the answer will still remain 1. So whatever is the prime factorization in that, take the value that has the highest power, the power of the highest that is present. Now if I similarly find the value of g of 2, what will happen in this function? You can again see that it is x plus 1 kind of a function, so this becomes 3. If I put 3, the answer becomes 4. If I put 4, the answer becomes 5. If I put 5, the answer becomes 6. And if I put 6, the answer becomes 7. Now what are we saying is basically what happens if you add these two functions, f plus g. If I add them, the answer becomes 4. The answer again becomes 5. And then if I again see, you can see that we are getting 7 for 2 values. And ultimately, if you do it for the last one, it becomes 8. So you can see that since 2 values are mapping to the same thing, so you can see that it is many one function basically. So many elements are basically mapping to 1. So this becomes many one function. Another thing, you can see that there is no value that matches or maps the value 1, 2 or 3. So 1, 2, 3 is not getting mapped. So my codomain is not equal to range. So that would mean it is neither 1, 1 nor not. The next technique that we can use is using graphs to solve problem. So using graph, we can solve this question that is given to us. So now here a little bit of graphical transformation would be required because we are in the graph territory. So if I want to draw this graph, first I will have to draw the graph of 1 minus 1 by x. For drawing this graph, we have to draw the graph of minus 1 by x and eventually the graph of 1 by x. Now those of you who don't know the graph of 1 by x, it would help to draw the graph of x. See, so now we will keep on using the graphical transformation. This graph is like this. So in inverse function, what happens to the graph is, wherever it is approaching 0 from the positive side, that part becomes infinity. Wherever it is positive, infinity becomes 0 from the positive side. Similarly, if it is approaching 0 from the negative side, becomes minus infinity, and so on and so forth. Once you have this, if you multiply by minus 1, now this gets inverted like this. And then if you add 1 to this, the whole graph shifts 1 unit upwards. So our graph will start looking like this. Now once we have this one, if I put a modulus sign over it, what will happen to the graph? That would be interesting. So whatever is the negative part, so the positive part will remain intact. So there is no problem with this part of the graph. But the negative part that was there, this will become positive. And since it becomes positive, you can see that it starts looking like this. Now from this graph, there are two things that we can talk about. One is for 1 function, we'll apply the horizontal line test. That would mean we'll draw a line. If the line can cut the graph at more than 2 points, more than 1 point, it is not a 1 function. It is not a 1 function. Now from graph only we can figure out the range. So if you look into the values of y that are possible, that are 0 to infinity, 0 included. Now let us look into the codomain that they have given us. Now they are saying that we can't put 0 inside the function. Obviously it is not there in the domain. You can see that 0 will not also come here then. So very clearly, no, 0 would still come at 1. Yeah. If I put x as 1, it will still become 0. So you can see that the range is not equal to codomain. So range is slightly bigger than the codomain. The range is not equal to codomain, and hence this is neither injective nor surjective. And in this next question, again we can do the same thing. We have to first draw the graph, but for drawing the graph this time, we'll have to use curve tracing. That would mean what I can do is I can put x as 0 in the first step. If I put x as 0, the corresponding value of y would be 1. If I put y as 0, I will have to solve this equation 2x cube minus 15x square plus 36x plus 1, which I am not inclined to do, so I will leave it here. Second is I am going to figure out what happens at infinity, and that we know it is a cubic equation. At x tends to infinity, y will also tends to infinity. And x tends to minus infinity, y also tends to minus infinity. In the first part, we see what happens when we put x as 0 and then y as 0. In second part, we check for infinity. The third part, the third segment, what we are going to do is we are going to differentiate this function. This becomes 6x square minus 30x plus 36. If I take 6 common, this becomes x square minus 5x plus 6, which in turn becomes x minus 2 into x minus 3. Now let us see if I plot this on a graph, how does it looks like. So we don't know about this value. So what will I have to check is basically, since this is 0, 3, I will have to check one more thing before plotting the graph. That is, what is the value corresponding to the endpoint, that is 0. If I take 0, the answer becomes 1. What is the value corresponding to the first point of extremity, that is 1, that is 2. So if I put here, the value I have calculated comes out to be 29. And what happens if I put 3? So if you put 3, the value will become 2 into 27 minus 15 into 9 plus 36 into 3 plus 1. If I write this up, this becomes 54. This becomes 135. This is 108 plus 1. So this value comes out to be 27. So this again becomes 2. Value comes out to be 28. Now once you have understood this, now what you can understand is, even if you draw the graph or don't draw the graph, you understand that the maximum value in this duration is 29 and the minimum value is 1. So the range will become this. This becomes the range. Since the range is equal to codomain, this will become an onto function. Now in order to figure out the 1 1 part, now let us draw the graph. So what you will understand is, this value is 1, this value is 28 and this value is 29. What you can say is, if I draw a line here, it is going to cut the curve at more than 1 points, and this is not a 1 1 function or a many 1 function. Hence B option comes out to be correct. Now using calculus also we can solve a problem. So what we'll approach is, basically let us say that 1 1 function, if I want to check, we'll have to check that the function needs to be non-monotonic, needs to be monotonic. That would mean if I am finding f dash of x, it can't be equal to 0. If this happens, it works. For onto function, if I want to check using this technique, I will have to find the range. For finding the range, we will have to find global maximum and global minimum. We are going to use these two ideas to solve problem. Now let us see. In this 2024 question, this question is given to us. So what are we going to do as a step 1 is to first figure out the domain. And now they have already given the domain, so the pain is less in terms of solving. What we will directly do is we will differentiate this function. So if I differentiate, the numerator differentiation becomes 2x plus 2. The denominator is x square minus 4x plus 9. Then again differentiation of the denominator, 2x minus 4 and x square plus 2x minus 15. Divide by x square minus 4x plus 9. This is what I have. So once you have this, you can take 2 common. X square minus 4x plus 9 whole square is in the denominator. What we will have is x plus 1 into x square minus 4x plus 9 minus x minus 2 into x square plus 2x minus 15. Now, if I simplify this, let us see what do we get, or can I take something common? That also I will have to work out. So if I multiply this, this becomes x cube minus 4x square plus 9x plus x square minus 4x plus 9 and minus x cube plus 2x square minus 15x minus 2x square minus 4x plus 30. This is what I can do. Now, if I simplify this, it comes out to be 2 upon x square minus 4x plus 9 whole square, and if simplified becomes minus 3x square plus 5x plus 9, and from the other part it becomes plus 19x minus 30. So I will have to write one more step to simplify it. So this part remains same. There is no need to manipulate this, wherein this becomes minus 3x square plus 24x minus 90 minus 21. See, now I will have to figure out whether it is monotonic or not. For checking that, what I will have to do is I will have to put this equal to, I will have to check whether the roots are existent or not. So for that, let us find the value of d. In fact, it would be better if I could take 3 common from here. So this 3 will go away. This will also become 8. This will become 7. And as a result, now I can also take the minus sign away. And as a result, what I'm left with, it is very easy to factorize x minus 7 into x minus. Now, if I look into the question, they are talking about all the real numbers. So, what I will have to do in the second part is, one, there are basically f dash of x has a solution. So, that means it is not a 1 function. So, that means it becomes many 1. So, one part we have already resolved. Now, for finding onto whether it is onto or not, we could see that we will have to figure out values at 1 and 7 and see what happens. So, if I put the value at 1, f of 1 would become 1 plus 2 minus 15 by 1 minus 4 plus 9. This comes out to be minus 12 by minus 6. That comes out to be 2. Wherein if I figure out the value at 7, let's see, this will become 49 plus 14 minus 15 divided by 49 minus 28 plus 9. So this, if simplified, will become 48 in the numerator. 28 if I subtract, so this will become 21 plus 9, 30. This can be further simplified, but you can see that we are not getting, so the range will become, if I simplify this, this is slightly smaller than 1. So you can see that I can, but there is no need to. 48 by 30 to 2. This is what I am getting in terms of range. You can see that my range here in this case is not equal to codomain, because codomain is real numbers. You can see that it was many 1 function. It is also an into function. So option C comes out to be 2, neither 1 nor onto. Now this 2019 question can be solved using similar method. In 2017 again similar kind of question was there. This 2019 again can be solved using similar method. Even graphical method would work in this case. This 2023 question, again it is similar question, almost with change values. In this 23 question, what they're saying is the function is defined as 1 minus e raised to the power minus x. Gx, they have given us something. Now they are talking about gx an increasing function, gx is 1 function. So we'll have to check how this works out. So let us first write gx function, then it would be easier to manipulate. If I write my gx function, it is f of minus x, that will become 1 minus e raised to the power x minus 1 upon 1 minus e raised to the power. That becomes 1 upon 1 minus e raised to the power x. This is e raised to the power x, e raised to the power x minus 1. So 1 upon 1 minus e raised to the power x plus e raised to the power x by 1 minus e raised to. If I simplify it down, it comes out to be 1 plus e raised to the power x by 1 minus e raised to the power. This is what we have got. Now we have to analyze this function. To talk about increasing, decreasing, we will have to differentiate this. So in the second part, we can differentiate this. So differentiation of numerator becomes e raised to the power x. And then 1 plus e raised to the power x minus of e raised to the by 1 minus e raised to the power x whole square. This is what I have. So once you have this, we can simplify it. E raised to the power x can be taken common. So 1 minus e raised to the power x. This becomes plus 1 plus e raised to the power x by 1 minus e raised to the power x whole square. You can see that this comes out to be 2 times e raised to the power x by 1 minus e raised to the power x whole square. You can see that this will never be equal to 0, and hence it is an increasing function. So now what they are saying is this is increasing between 0, 1. So this statement becomes true. It is 1, 1. The increasing functions are also 1, 1. The second statement is also true. So A option comes out to be correct. Both 1 and 2 are true. Now type 7 questions are based on composite functions. Let us first understand the idea quickly and then go over the problem types. See, what composite function does is, if I am writing f of gx, the x will first go inside the gx function it will generate an output as gx, and that becomes the input for the next function. This basic idea is very important for our understanding to all kinds of questions and basic things that are going to be found. It will impact the domain, it will also impact range based questions. Now let us first look into definition based questions that are there. In this question, what they're saying is the function is given to us, then f of 2x by 1 plus x square. So we could directly substitute in place of x the value of 2x by 1 plus x square. So if I do this, you can see that this becomes log of 1 minus 2x by 1 plus x square, and you can keep on pausing this video, solving the question along with me, so that you get a better idea on how to approach problems. Now if you have this will become 1 plus x square minus 2x, denominator will get cancelled out, 1 plus x square plus 2x. Now if you simplify this is log of x minus 1 whole square by x plus 1 whole square. As a result, 2 will come out, and what we have is log of x minus 1 by x plus 1 ka modulus. Now if question says that modulus of x is smaller than 1, if modulus of x is smaller than 1, then we are looking values for x between minus 1 and 1, hence the numerator part will open with a negative sign. So here we can write this as 1 minus x, denominator is fine, will become 1 plus x. You can that what we are getting is 2 times of x. That is nothing but option A. So this interpretation of mod was a crucial point in this question. If I look into this 2020 question, you can see that function is given. The definition of the function is written here. The function's definition is again given here. Again, what they are saying is basically f of f is equal to x. That would mean it is a self-inverse kind of a function. So f of f is equal to x, then f of minus 1 by 2, that is what they are asking. If it is a self-inverse function, what will happen is, if I put this function inside it, the answer is coming out to be x. And if I do it so, it will become a minus x by a plus x by a plus a minus x by a plus x. If I do so, this is a into, that will become a square plus ax minus a plus x divided by a square plus ax plus a minus x will be equal to x. So now what we can see here is, I can cross multiply and get all the possible values of a where this can happen. So if I cross multiply, this becomes a square plus ax minus a plus x becomes a square x plus a square ax square plus ax minus x square. Now if we simplify this, let us see what do we get. So this will become, if I bring all the terms from the left hand side, x square, and coefficient we will have 1 from here and minus a from here. Secondly, if I take x, so ax would get cancelled out on both the sides. This will become again 1 minus a into x, and ultimately a square minus a is equal to 0. Now we are saying that this should be always true. That means it will become identity, and identity will only happen when all the coefficients will become 0. Now if you put all of these coefficients 0, there is only one possible value of a, that is 1, that satisfies. We have got the value of a in the first part. In the second part, what are we doing? We are trying to find the value of f of minus 1 by 2. So if I do that, this is 1 minus of minus 1 by 2 by 1 plus minus of 1 by 2. That is 3 by 2 by 1 by 2. Answer comes out to be 3. That is option D. If I look into this next 2020 question, again it takes the advantage of the basic definition. It says that if you put a function in place of fx, it is going to become fx ka whole square plus fx minus 1. This is what g of fx will look like, but they have also given an answer to this. See, now one interesting thing to understand is, the answer can be only this if fx is a polynomial, and that too a linear polynomial. So this needs to be a linear polynomial. Only then this kind of expression, that have the same degree as gx, would occur with a different constant term. So constant term is also different. So what we could write in terms of fx is nothing but ax plus b. Now our only point is to figure out the value of a and b, because if I get that, I will be able to figure out the value of f of 5 by 4. So now if I put this into this function, let us see what is the value of g of fx do we get. If I put it here, this is ax plus b whole square plus ax plus b minus 1. That becomes a square x square 2ab plus a times x plus b square minus 1 plus b. This is what we are getting. Once we have this, and if we compare the coefficient in the next part, we clearly see that the value of a square would be equal to 4. So ideally we should take ratio of the terms, but it is so obvious here, I do not need to. So from here, the value of a comes out to be plus minus 2 or plus 2. Then we have twice of ab plus a, the value of this one. Now here, so this is given as minus 10. So now two kinds of values are possible. If I take a as plus 2, and then if I put it here, then this will become 4b plus 2 is equal to minus 10, and b comes out to be minus 3. This is one kind of value. Another one can come if I put a as minus 2. Then this will become minus 4b minus 2 is equal to minus 10. Minus 4b is equal to minus 8, b comes out to be equal to. This is another value. Now let us check for the third part also. We have checked the first two parts, but the third part, that is b square plus b minus 1. This value will also be equal to 5. If I check for the first value that we are getting from here, if I check for this value, that is b equal to minus 3. Let us see, does it satisfy? So this will become 9 minus 3 minus 1. And you can see that this is equal to 5. So this satisfies. Whereas if I check for the next value, that is b is equal to 2. This becomes 4 plus 2 minus 1. This also becomes 5. This also satisfies. So what we can see is basically there are two pairs of values. One is corresponding to a equal to plus 2. We can have the value of b as minus 3. If I consider this value, my function can be 2x minus 3. If I want to find the value of 5 by 4 for this function, this is 2 into 5 by 4 minus 3. Becomes 5 by 2 minus 3. This is minus 1 by 2. Wherein, if I take the value of a as minus 2, the value of b comes out to be 2. And as a result, the function becomes minus 2x plus 2. And if I want to find the value of 5 by 4, it becomes minus 2 into 5 by 4 plus 2. So this value comes out to be 4 into 2 is 8, 8 minus 10, minus 2 by 4 minus 1. We are getting the same value, minus 1 by 2 for both the parts. Hence B option comes out. Now similar kind of question was asked in 2022 and again 23 and again 2019. So all of these are similar kind of questions. So if you know the basic understanding that I have told you, you might be able to handle all such questions. Second category of questions that are asked in composite function are based on domain. So in this 2024 question, what they're asking is domain of f of gx. So for that to happen, there are two conditions. One, the gx needs to be defined. Now if gx needs to be defined, then in the gx function that is given to us, the denominator can't be 0. That would mean I can't put a value of x such that it becomes minus 5 by 2. So that denominator becomes 0. For the second part, if I am writing f of gx, now let us figure out what that function looks like. So this will be 2 times mod of x plus 1 by 2x plus 5 plus 3 divided by 2 times mod of x plus 1 by 2x plus 5 plus 1. If I simplify, this is 2 times mod of x plus 2 plus 6x plus 15 by 2 times mod of x plus 2 plus 2x plus 5. So it comes out to be 2 times mod of x plus 6x plus 17 divided by 2 times mod of x plus 2x plus 7. See, now if I interpret in two different scenarios. So now the first case that I need to consider is what will be the domain if mod of x comes out to be positive. That will become, so if I put values of x greater than 0. If I put values of x greater than equal to 0, then the denominator, that is 2x. Now the mod is opened as x. This should not be equal to 0. That means x cannot be equal to minus 7 by 4. And this is totally fine, because if you are considering positive value, this will never happen. So there is no problem on this side. Now if I put x is smaller than 0, then in that scenario, this will be interpreted as minus 2x plus 2x plus 7. So this gets cancelled out, and this itself would become 7 and not equal to 0. So you can see that on the side of f of gx there is no constraint, but on the side of the original function gx there is a constraint, x cannot be equal to minus 5 by 2. Hence the answer of this question becomes D, r minus 5 by 2. Now the next category of questions in composition is based on the nth iterative. In this case, if you take f of gx multiple times, there is a pattern and it starts repeating. Now let us look into a question that was asked in 2024. The question says that f of fx is equal to gx. What will be the value of g of g of g? So you can see that there is a repetition of composition, and hence there might be a pattern to figure it out. So let us first understand what will be the value of gx. For that, I will have to put fx inside fx. So we have 4fx plus 3 by 6fx minus 4. And here if I put the value of fx, this will become 4x plus 3 by 6x minus 4 plus 3 by 6 times 4x plus 3 by 6x minus 4 minus 4, and which if simplified will come out to be 16x plus 12 plus 18x minus 12. And in denominator, what we have got is, in a similar manner, 24x plus 18 minus 24x plus 16. If I simplify this out, let us see what do we get. In the numerator, 12 will get cancelled out. We have got 16 plus 18. This is 34x. And denominator ke andar, you can see that 24 will get cancelled out. So again, this will become 34. So what we are getting is x. So gx is a function which is equal to x. Now what is happening is, if you are finding g of gx, so now if I put g of gx, it would be equal to gx only, and gx is x, so becomes x. If I put one more gx into it, there will be one more gx into it. Since it is equal to x, this will become x, and this becomes again x. You can see that the answer comes out to be x. If I am putting 4 into it, the output will always be 4. So answer comes out to be D option. Now this 2022 question, this again same question. All of these are based on this repetitive idea of fx. Once you start figuring out f of fx, you get a pattern, and based on that, all of these questions till 19 and even this 11 and again 24 can be solved. The next category of questions in composite is piecewise defined function. Now in this 2024 question, you can see there are two ways of solving the question. One that most of the students prefer, that is the algebraic method. In that, what I will do is, in fx, I will substitute the value of gx. If I do it so, this will become 2 plus 2 times gx minus 1 gx and 1 minus gx by 3. Then again gx is smaller than or equal to 3. Now, this is one way of writing things. Now, since there is not one gx but two gx's, we'll have to substitute both the values. If I put in place of gx minus x, it will become 3 minus 1 smaller than equal to minus x, and this value of x comes for this range of x. So let us also write the same thing on the other side. And then again I will put this in the second part also. So 1 minus x by 3, and then let us put this value here as well. So 0 is smaller than equal to minus x is smaller than equal to 3, and then write the same for which this value of gx came. So you can see that I am copying down these parts from here. Now you can see there would be one more variation to it where we can write the value as x. So that will become 2x 1 plus x by 3 minus x by 3. Now once I do that, we know that this will happen between minus 1 and 0. And when x lies between 0 and 3. And correspondingly, you will also have to take the value when this happens, that is between 0 and 1. Between 0 and 1. And again, as I told you earlier, these values are getting copied for me. Once you have written this down, now in order to get the answer, we will have to find the intersections. So if I take intersection of the first two things, what we are saying is minus x. So if I take the intersection of the first part, it would mean x lies between 0 and 1. So this is 0, this is 1, where 1 is included. Taken, and x lies between minus 3 and 0. So minus 3 and 0 would be here. So between minus 3 and 0. So there is no intersection. So you can see that in this case, the intersection comes up to be null set. So this branch will never occur. If I take the next branch and do the same process one more time, what will happen to that? Let us see. Now in the second part, x lies between minus 3 and 0. The second part again says that x lies between minus 3 and 0. So you can see that both of them are overlapping. So intersection comes out to be minus 3, 0, both closed. Next part of the discussion, it says that x lies between minus 1 and 0. So minus 1 and 0. Minus 1 is included, 0 is not included. And then x lies between 0 and 1. So 0 and 1. So you can see that there is no intersection here. So again, in this case, answer comes out to be null set. And the last part, you can see between 0 and 3. So this will become between 0 and 3, where 0 and 3 are included, and between 0 and 1. So 0 is not included, 1 is included. So intersection will become this part. In this case, the answer comes out to between 0 and 1. 1 is included, 0 is not. Once I have this, now I can say that only two branches will come. The first one would be 1 plus x by 3 for values of x between minus 3 and 0. And another branch would be the last one, that is 1 minus x by 3. That will be for the values of x between 0 and 1. Now let us go back to the question. The question says that what is the range of this function. So now range can be figured out when using a simple graph. If I draw the graph, this is an increasing function. Minus 3 if I put, it will become 0. So at minus 3 it is becoming 0. And at 0 it will become 1. So it is going like this. And the next one is again a decreasing function. So if I put 0, it still remains 1. But if I put 1, it will become 2 by 3. You can see that from this graph that the range of this function will always lie between 0 and 1. 0 is included, 1 is also included. So this is the range of the function. So you can see D option comes out to be correct. Now there is another shorter method of doing the same question. Now in this case, if you are drawing f of gx, whatever is the inside function, that graph we will draw. In this case, f of gx is there, so gx is the inside function. So if I am going from minus 3 to 0, 0 to 1, from minus 3 to 0, I will have the graph of minus x. So your minus x would be like this. So this will become plus 3 and 0 will become 0. And from here to 1, we have the graph of x. So it will start looking like this. So this is how the graph looks like. Now on this graph, if I look into the function that is given to me, it says that if there is a value between -1 and 0 on the y-axis, because whatever is the output of gx will become input for the fx. So -1 to 0, that will go inside a function 2 plus 2x. And whatever is the value between 0 and 3, that will go inside a function 1 minus x by 3. So you can see that now, if I look into this function, this graph is of minus x. This will go into this function, and as a generate a function 1 plus x by 3. For what values? So for the values of x from -3 to 0. So x lies between -3 and 0. Wherein in the next case that I have, this is the graph of x. This will again also go into this function and generate an output 1 minus x by 3. What values of x? The ones that are on the x-axis corresponding to this part of the graph. So that would mean the values of x between 0 and 1. You can see that I was able to get that much faster in a very small amount of time. So the function finding part becomes very simple. After that, the process would remain same. But you can see that the amount of calculation I was able to cut down using the graphical method. Now a hugely popular question is the one based on 1, 1, onto and composition. Now in this 2022 question, if you see, both the concepts of 1, 1, onto and composition are getting combined. But there is no secret recipe to it. We will use the same techniques of 1, 1, onto that we used earlier. So if a question is given to me, the first step would be to find the value of fog, that is f of gx. In my x, I will put gx. So what will happen is, this will become gx minus 1. The question that is given to me in form of gx is x square by x square minus 1 minus 1. If I simplify this, this comes out to be x square minus x square plus 1 by x square minus 1, cancels out. So in the second part, now if I want to solve this question and check whether this is 1, 1 or onto, a simpler technique would be to use graphs. What I want to do is draw the graph of 1 upon x square minus 1. In order to draw this graph, I will have to draw the graph of x square minus 1. Even if I don't know this, I can draw the graph of x square, and that graph I think everybody knows. So this graph is something like this. If I subtract minus 1, it will go like this. And then if I take inverse, this part would be below like this part would be like this. So now we can clearly see that one, there are two things to be observed. There is certain part of graph missing here. So the range is not equal to codomain. So this is very sure. So that will mean this is not an onto function. This is an into function. Another thing is, if I draw a line here or a line here, it cuts the graph into more than one point. So it is also a many-one function. So answer becomes D option, neither 1, 1 nor onto. Now if I look into this 2019 question, again it is based on an old technique. So fundamentally we are doing nothing new. It is just the question is getting framed in that way. So now if I want to do this, I will start doing the mapping. So that would mean I will put the value of n as 1. If I put the value of n as 1, my g of 1 would be equal to 1 minus 1. That would become 2. And if this is 2, corresponding to that value, the value of g of 1, since see g of 1 is even, it will go into this part of the function that is for even, becomes 2 by 2, comes out to be. Wherein if I take the value of n as 2, now g of 2 if I figure out will become 2 minus 1 raised to the power 2. This comes out to be 1. Then f of g of 2 would be equal to, now since this is odd, it will go into the first part of the function, becomes 1 plus 1 by 2, that comes out to be. Let us do it for two more values. So if I do it for n is equal to 3, then g of 3 will come out to be 3 minus 1 raised to the power 3 becomes 4. And f of g of 3 becomes again 4 by 2, that becomes 2. And n is equal to 4 if I put. So g of 4 would be equal to 4 minus 1 raised to the power 4 comes out to be 3. So f of g of 4 comes out to be 3 plus 1 by 2. Now what is happening here? Let us see in the second part of our discussion. So start mapping values. What is there to be observed is if I'm putting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this 1 is also getting mapped to 1. Again the 2 also get mapped to 1. Similarly, these two map 4, 3 and 4 are getting mapped to, but you can see that all the even and odd values are getting mapped. And hence we can say that all the values moving forward will get mapped. So this becomes an onto function. And since many elements are getting mapped to one function, it is also a many one function. We can see that option B comes out to be correct. We can also write a more generalized form of this whatever I have solved solution by putting n as 2m plus 1 and n as 2m, and you can get a generalized solution based on that, but this makes more sense for solving problem on a practical basis. Now similar kind of question came in 2022 as well, and again 2021 as well. These kind of questions have been repeating. Now for doing this 2024 question, I am going to use the graphical method that I taught you earlier. What they want is g of fx, so we'll have to draw the graph of fx, that is the function inside. So fx, if you look into, is ln x for values of x greater than 0. Ln x graph would look something like this, and for values of smaller than or equal to 0, it starts with, and it is going to be like this. This is how it looks like. Now what are we saying? For values, and now whatever is here, for values that are greater than 0 will go into x, so this will go into x, and whatever are smaller than 0, those value will go into e raised to the power. So you can see that this function is e raised to the power minus x. This will go into this function and generate a value e raised to the power minus x. For what values of x? From minus infinity to 0, 0 included. But you can see that after this what I have is ln x. Now this for 0 to 1, for this interval, this ln x will go inside ln x, e raised to the power x, and e raised to the power ln x would be equal to x. For what values of x? For values between 0 and 1. Now when you are writing this e raised to the power x, we are not including 0, so 1 will also be not included. The next part, this ln x will ultimately start from 1, go into this function and generate ln x. For what values of x? From 1 to infinity. If I write this function down, how does this function looks like? So this function will have 3 parts. The first part will be e raised to the power minus x for values of x smaller than 0. Now for values of x between 0 to 1, 0 and 1 not included, you can write this function as ln x. And for values of x greater than or equal to 1, this will again become so for values of x between 0 and 1, this becomes equal to x. For values of x greater than or equal to 1, it becomes 7. So once you have all of these 3 values, now it would be easier to draw the graph and then determine whatever the question is trying to ask. So the first part of the question was primarily to figure out the composite function. Now once we have done that, let us draw them on a separate graph. So now this is the graph of cof. So e raised to the power minus x, so that would mean something like this to 0. After this point it becomes 1. From 0 it would be open and it will go till 1. Since 1 is also not included, is still open. And after this it is ln x. So ln x will again start with 0 and go till infinity. So it is something like this. If you look into this graph, you can see that if I draw a line, horizontal line, it cuts at 2 points, here also and here also. So it is definitely not a one function, it is a many one function. Also, if you are looking at the range part of it, the range comes out to be 0 to infinity. This is the range, wherein no specific range is defined for the Goff function. Achha, it is given as codomain is given as real numbers, so it is not equal, hence also not onto. So this becomes an into. So it is many one into, hence option B comes out to be. Now, if you have understood this and the technique, how fast I was able to solve this question, You can use similar technique to solve 2024 question that is given next. Also this same question that again came, है ना, with slight manipulation, है ना, again similar. So similar kind of questions has been asked multiple times. Now the six kind of questions that are based on multi-concept. So if I look into this 2023 question, this question, the function is given. They are talking about least value of this f of fx plus f of 4 pi x. We need to solve this question. Now, if I write this function and if you closely observe, it is something like this: ax plus some constant b by cx minus a. Why are we writing in this manner? Because this whole tan 1 degree, log 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4 is just given to confuse you. If you find f of fx, this would be equal to a of fx plus b by c into f of x minus a. If I again substitute value, this will become ax plus b by cx minus a plus b divided by c of ax plus b by cx minus a minus a. If I simplify this, let us see what do we get. In the numerator, it will become a square x plus ab plus bx minus ab divided by acx plus bc minus acx plus a square. Now, if I simplify, you can see that terms getting cancelled out. AB will get cancelled out. ACX will get cancelled out. As a result, we can take x common in the numerator, becomes a square plus b. And the denominator, it again becomes b plus, in fact, bc. We have forgotten c here. This would be bc plus a square. So you can see that all of this cancels out and becomes x. Now this is very important. What are we getting here? F of fx came out to be x in the first part. So in the second part, if I want to find f of 4 by x, the value will come out to be 4 by x only. Now in the third part, if I add both of them, so x plus 4 by x, if I'm adding them, and I'm saying that x is greater than 0. So whenever positive things are given to us, the idea or the concept that you should link to is nothing but am is greater than or equal to g. So the least value will occur when x would be equal to 4 by x. As a result, the value of x comes out to be 2. And the least value also comes out to be 4. So the answer to this question becomes 4. That is option B. Now this 2021 question is a very interesting question. And there is a hint in this question that check the value at 2. This is the hint. So if you put the value 2 here, what happens to this function, that you need to understand. So g of 2, if you put, what will happen is this will become 4 minus 2 minus 2. That is, numerator is 0. And if you put in the denominator 2 into 4 minus 2 minus 6. So you can see that this is 0 by 0. Why it is given? Because it tries and attracts our attention towards simplification. So what they are saying is you can simplify the numerator in terms of factors. So you can write this as x minus 2 into x plus 1. And denominator can also be factorized into x minus 2 into 2x plus 3. Now what you can observe is this x minus 2 can be cancelled out and we can write here x is not equal to 2. And the function itself becomes a very simple function, so that the future question that needs to be solved would be solved much faster. This is what we have. So this needs to be read between the lines, because if you miss out this idea, then the solution becomes extremely long and lengthy. Now let us move to the next part of the question. Now the question says that for what happens for this sine inverse x. So see, now one thing is, for any kind of fog related function, it should be defined for gx, and gx would be defined if the denominator, that is 2x plus 3, is not equal to 0. That would mean x is not equal to minus 3. Third thing that we are going to say is basically, if I figure out f of gx, then it would be sine inverse of x plus 1 by 2x plus 3. Now for this function to be defined, the condition is very simple. X plus 1 by 2 x plus 3 should be between minus 1 and this needs to happen. Now for solving this has two parts. Let us consider both the cases. The first case, these are not cases, these are part of the same. So we will write it like this: x plus 1 by 2x plus 3. This needs to be greater than or equal to minus 1. So if I take this first part, minus 1 can be taken on the left hand side. So x plus 1 by 2x plus 3 plus 1 needs to be greater than or equal to 0. And if I take LCM, this becomes 3x plus 4 by 2x plus 3 greater than or equal to 0. That would mean ultimately that there are two important points, minus 4 by 3 and minus 3 by 2. So it needs to be positive, negative, positive. We are considering the greater than or equal to 0 wala part. You can see that this can be equal to 0, but 3 by 2 is not equal to 0. Now, this is not the only condition. We have another condition in form of AND, that x plus 1 by 2x plus 3, this needs to be also smaller than or equal to 1. For solving this up, we'll have to bring minus 1 on the left hand side. So this becomes x plus 1 minus 2x minus 3 by 2x plus 3 is smaller than or equal to 0. As a result, this becomes minus x minus 2 by 2x plus 3 is smaller than or equal to 0. And now you can take minus on the other side. So x plus 2 by 2x plus 3 needs to be greater than or equal to 0. Now if you draw the VV curve for this part, there would be minus 2 and minus 3 by 2. Plus minus plus. The numerator part can be equal to 0, denominator is not 0. Now what needs to happen is this and this, so we need to take intersection of both of these solutions. So if I draw them on the same number line, what do you have? You have minus 2, minus 3 by 2 and minus 4 by 3. So now you can see that the first solution says that it needs to be greater than 4 by 3 and smaller than 3 by 2. This needs to be open. But the next one, it says that it needs to be smaller than minus 2. It needs to be greater than 3 by 2. If I figure out common solution, this is my common solution. So my answer becomes minus infinity to minus 2, where minus 2 is included, and then minus 4 by 3 to infinity, where minus 4 by 3 is included. So option A comes out to be correct. Now, what is the mistake that you can do is, if you do not cancel out this x minus 2 in the starting, you will not get the correct answer. Now, this 2022 question goes back to the idea of increasing and decreasing functions. So what happens is, if there is an inequality like f of x1 is greater than f of x2, if fx is an increasing function, in that case I can write x1 is greater than x2. But in case my function is a decreasing function, then the middle sign will get flipped. Question is fundamentally using this core idea or this core concept to frame this question. Now let us delete this. First, so idea would be, the first step would be to figure out whether fx and gx are increasing or decreasing function. So I will consider the fx first. So what I have is ln of x square plus 1 minus e raised to the power minus x plus 1. If you differentiate this, in order to understand it increasing decreasing nature, this will become 2x by x square plus 1 plus e raised to the power minus x. Now we can say without any doubt that if I am looking for values of x greater than 0 or equal to 0 for that matter, this is going to be positive, hence increasing. But what happens when the values of x are smaller than 0? Now we know that this second term is definitely going to be positive. What about this term? Now for this, you can write it like 2 by x plus 1 by x. See, now once you have x, so in order to get this value, we'll have to get the value of x plus 1 by x. Now here, what we can do is we can write it more smartly as minus 2 by minus x into minus 1 by x. Why so? Because when x is smaller than 0, minus x and minus 1 by x, both of these quantities would be positive. I can now apply aim is greater than equal to g. So their minimum value is going to come when both of them will become equal. So x square is equal to 1, x comes out to be plus minus 1. Since we are looking for values smaller than 1, it will happen at minus 1. So now you can do this deeper analysis, but even if you don't know, you can say that the function is increasing, but it is better to do this analysis. So once you have done that, you understand that the minimum value of the first part can be when x becomes minus 1, so that would be minus 2 by 2. And on the other hand, the other part of the function then will become e, and this becomes e minus 1. Since this is greater than 0 in those both scenarios also, then this f dash of x still becomes positive here as well, and hence increasing function. Another thing that we can do in the next part is to understand similar nature for g of x also. Now g of x would be simpler. If I simplify, it will become 1 by e raised to the power x minus 2 e raised to the power x, or e raised to the power minus x minus 2 e raised to the power x. And we can differentiate them. If I differentiate, minus e raised to the power minus x minus 2 e raised to the power x will come. You can see that this is always smaller, because e raised to the power x and e raised to the power minus x are always greater than 0. So you can see that gx as a result comes out to be decreasing function. So now the situation is very clear. Function fx is increasing and gx is decreasing. This will help us simplify the inequality that is given to us. So if I am writing f of g of alpha minus 1 whole square by 3 greater than f of g of alpha minus 5 by 3. Since fx is increasing, whatever is written inside the fx, this will retain its sign because it is an increasing function. So g of alpha minus 1 whole square by 3 would be greater than g of alpha minus 5 by 3. Now here, since gx is a decreasing function, the sign between them will get flipped. So here we are flipping the sign. So whenever it is increasing function, we retain the sign. Whenever it is a decreasing function, we flip the sign. If I write it, this will become alpha square minus 2 alpha plus 1 is smaller than 3 alpha minus 5, or alpha square minus 5 alpha plus 6 is smaller than 0. As a result, the value of alpha that can be true comes out to be between 2 and 3, and hence option A comes out to be correct. Now this 2022 question seems like a very difficult question. They are saying that there is a function fx which has a fifth power, but fundamentally an odd function. There is a function gx which is inverse of fx, and then there are a1, a2, a3, an also, which are in arithmetic progression with mean 0. Then they want us to find the value of this function, and then function. So there are three functions, and then three basically the complex composite functions they are trying to form. Inside there is a summation also. See, so most of the times if you want to solve this question theoretically, it might get longer. I am not saying that it will always get longer, but there is a chance that it might get longer. So there should be some hack to solve such kind of questions. If you observe for cracks in the question, there might be something that is very generic. Like in this question, the value of the options, if you look into it, it is not dependent on n. I can consider any value of n. So I am taking the value of n is 3. And three values of a1, a2, a3 correspondingly minus 1, 0, plus 1. Now these three terms are in arithmetic progression with their mean 0. So this assumption basically makes my life very easy, because now I can get this question very fast. Why? Because now if you figure out the value of the function at minus 1, it is going to become minus alpha, minus beta, minus gamma. If you figure out the value of function at 0, it becomes 0. And at plus 1, it will come out to be alpha, beta, gamma. What are they saying is add all of these values. If I add them, it will become summation of I is equal to 1 to n, that is 3. This will become 1 by 3. Now, what I am writing is this internal term. And if you add them, it comes out to be 0. So you can get the value as 0. Now, if this becomes 0, what happens to our question is, this is f of g of 0. See, now fx and gx are inverse function. So g of fx is 0, the f of gx will also become 0. So this value also comes out to be 0. So we were able to solve this question extremely fast by assuming some values and taking help of the cracks inside the question. Now type 8 questions are based on inverse functions. What are inverse functions? So usually we'll write an inverse function as f of inverse x. This does not mean this is not equal to 1 by fx. The reciprocal and inverse functions are different first. What does it mean is reverse mapping. So if there is a function f that is mapping 1 to 3 to a, b, c, this is my function f. The inverse function means the mapping has reversed now. I will be mapping ABC to 1, 2, 3. Well, this is what it means. Now you can see that for it to be defined, it is very important the function in place that is given to me needs to be bijective in nature. That is 1, 1 not. Otherwise, it won't exist. If I have 3 basic informations into place, I can go ahead and solve my questions into category of techniques that we can use. Now in this 2021 question, what you can see is they have given y is equal to 5 log x. In order to find the inverse function, first we should know what is the base. I hope they are assuming the base to be 5. So the question is y is equal to 5 raised to the power log of x to the base. If I write it like this, what will happen is I will have to express x as a function of y. So I can write log of y to the base 5 will be equal to log of x to the base 5 using the definition of log. And then x can be written as 5 raised to the power log of 5 to the base 5. So you can see that option 3 comes out to be true. Again in this question, we'll use the same technique as what we used earlier. So we'll take this function as y and write this as, again simplify this as 8 raised to the power 4x minus 1 by 8 raised to the power 4x plus 1. What we have done is we have multiplied and divided by 8 raised to the power 2x. Once done, I can cross multiply, becomes y into 8 raised to the power 4x plus y is equal to 8 raised to the power 4x minus 1. And now I can take this on the left hand side. So becomes y minus 1 into 8 raised to the power 4x and y on the left hand side minus y minus 1. Once you have this, 8 raised to the power 4x would be equal to y plus 1 by 1 minus 5. We have adjusted the value of y. So now if you are writing it, the value will become 4 raised to the power x would be equal to ln or log of 1 plus y by 1 minus y to the base 8, or x comes out to be 1 by 4 times log of 1 plus y by 1 minus y to the base 8. Now the last step usually is to express or change x by y and y by x. In the next step, we can write x as nothing but 1 by 4 times log of 1 plus x by 1 minus. Now let us check options. If you look into the option, you can see that the option A comes out to it. Moving forward, you can see that this 2001 question can also be solved in similar manner. Also, this 2021 question can be solved in similar manner. Express x as a function of y, and in the last step, exchange x and y. Now, there are graph-based questions. So, what happens between function and its inverse function is the graph will get reflected about y is equal to x. This is what is fundamentally happening. Why it is happening? Because if you are substituting 1 and it was mapped to 2 in function f, the same mapping will become 2, 1. So if there is a point on the graph 1, 2, that becomes a point 2, 1 on the graph. That is exactly as taking the reflection of a point over y is equal to x. Now this 2002 question says that fx is a function x plus 1 whole square, where x is greater than or equal to 1. Gx is a function whose graph is the reflection of this graph with respect to y is equal to x. So they are talking about the inverse of this function, but they are not asking it directly, they are asking it indirectly. So now if you want to get it, the value of gx, what would that be equal to? So what we are going to do is again write this as y is equal to x plus 1 whole square. So x plus 1 would be equal to plus minus root of y, and the value of x comes out to be 1 plus minus 1 plus minus root. See, now when this inversion happens, the domain of the first function will become range of another. That would mean if I am looking for the values of x now, it needs to be greater than or equal to minus 1. So I can't take both the signs. Since the value needs to be greater than minus 1, this sign needs to also be positive. I have considered 1 by. In the next part, I will replace y by x and x by y. It becomes minus y equal to minus 1 plus root x. This is what I am getting. So minus 1 plus root x is nothing but given in option D. That becomes the correct answer. The next kind of questions are based on composition. So this question says that there is a function fx, there is a function gx. They are talking about inverse of f of g. It is also given. Then they are asking fog of AC and g of b. What is the value equal to? So we know that ultimately we'll have to find fog. So let us start with fog only. If I find fog, it will become a of gx minus 3, and that is equal to a into x raised to the power b plus ac minus 3. Now, in the second part, they are saying that find the inverse of this function. So for finding the inverse, we'll take this part as y, ax raised to the power b plus ac minus 3. Take it on the other side. So y minus ac plus 3 by a raised to the power 1 by b would be equal to x. And the inverse function will become y is equal to x minus ac minus 3 by a raised to the power 1 by b. Now the question says that the value of this part is equal to x minus 7 by 2 raised to the power 1 by 3. Now if I do a element by element comparison, then the value of a comes out to be 2. The value of b comes out to be 3. Also AC minus 3 comes out to be 7. Since AC is equal to 10, C comes out to be 5. We have got the value of all the important terms. In the third part, if I again go back to f of g of x, what is the value? So if I put the value of a, this becomes 2. If I put the value of b, it comes out to be q. And if I put the value of AC, AC came out to be 10 minus 3. So the value of fog is 2x cube plus 7. Now what they are asking us is basically find the value at AC. So the value of x is AC. AC is 10. So f of g of 10 would be 2 into 10 cube plus 7. So that is 2007. Now the another part says that find the value of g of fx. Now for this we'll have to find the value of g of fx. So in fx, in g we will put the value of x. So this will become fx raised to the power b plus c. Now we need to find out the value at 3. So if I want to find the value of at 3, because the value of b is 3, so this will become f of 3 raised to the power 3 and c was 5. So f of 3 if we find, here we know the value of a came out to be 2. So this is 2x minus 3. If you put 3 here, this will become 6 minus 3, the value comes out to be 3. So what are they asking is, this would be 3 cube plus 5. That is 27 plus 5. This comes out to be 32. Now what they're asking, you add these two values that we have got. So if I add 2007 and 32, the answer comes out to be 203. And that becomes the answer to this question. So the question is fundamentally the same question. What we'll have is to follow up through every step that I'm writing. And if I do very nicely slowly, I will be able to get maths. So let us go into the fourth category, that is derivative of inverse. Now, most of the times in this kind of question, we will start with f of gx or g of fx as the condition might be. Like in this case, we can start with g of f of gx. Now, we know that since it is an inverse function would be equal to x. So we can differentiate this. So f dash of gx, since it is composite function, chain rule will get applied. And now since you want the value of g dash of x, we'll take our f dash of gx in the denominator. Now what do we want to find? We want to find the value at 63. So if I put 63 here, this will become 1 minus f dash of g of 63. Now here is where the inverse function part comes into place. See, if g wants to trace a function 63 to a value k, the f is an inverse function, it will trace k to 63. So what we need to figure out is, in this function that is given to me, that is fx, if I put k, when will be this equal to 63? If I can figure out the value of k, I have got the value of g of 63. So if I just do this, this will become k cube plus k minus 5 is equal to 0. So now think of what can be the possible values. So if I put 3, it would be less. So if I put 4, so 4 cube would be equal to 64. This will become 4 minus 5, 63. So now we can see that if I do this, this actually comes out to be 63. So the possible value of k would be equal to 4. And most of the times, we will have to do this by observation. This is important in all such inverse based questions. Now, once you have done this, in the fourth part, you have got the value of g of 63, that is equal to k, that came out to be 4. So what you have to find finally is the value of f dash of 4. So f dash of 4, for that we'll have to find the derivative of this function. That is very simple. The derivative of this function will become 3x square plus 1. If I figure out the value at 4, this will become 3 into 4 square plus 1. That is 3 into 16 plus 1 comes out to be 14. So you can see that the value came out to be 49. Once you know that, the value of g dash of 63 would be 1 by 14. Let us check the options. You can see that A option matches. Now here what is given is f and g are identity functions. Fog is an identity function, that would mean f and g are inverse. So if I write f of gx, what they are saying is this is equal to x. In the second step, if I differentiate this, this will become f dash of gx into g dash of x, and right hand side differentiation becomes 1. Now since I want to find the value of f dash of b, I will put the value of x as a. If I do it so, this becomes f dash of g of a into g dash of a is equal to 1. Now if I substitute the value, f dash of g of a, this is given as b, g dash of a is given as 5. So the value of f dash of b comes out to be 1. Very simple question. Option A comes out of it. Next kind of questions are based on functional equations. Now if you look into functional equation, a functional equation is any equation that is written in f of x, x, y. The dependent variable, independent variable fundamentally. Now the solutions of these equations can be done using 3 important methods. One is recognition. Another method is by substitution. And the last one is using first derivative. Now first derivative based questions that came, I have not covered here, and most of the time these questions will come in JEE Advanced only. From mains point of view, you need to know only those techniques. Now what I am going to do is, in order to make your life simpler, I will take one of these categories one by one and discuss what kind of questions came and how to solve these questions. In this first category of question, as the name goes, you have to recognize the functions just by looking into the property that is given to us. So what they're saying is, which function displays this property that if you add things inside it, it gets multiplied. So the answer is very simple, exponential function. So if I take this, you know the property that if you have a raised to the power x plus y can be written as a raised to the power x into a raised to the power. See, here it is an exponential function. In the next question, it can be trigonometric also, inverse trigonometric also. Such questions have been asked in recent exams. So all you need to have a broader view of what kind of functions can be asked, and based on that, you choose a function. Once you have done that, there might be something given in the question to give you the value of a. Like in this question, they are saying that in the second part, if I start adding, and if I start putting the value from 1, then 2, and if I go till infinity, the sum is equal to 2. If I put this value, this will become a, then a square till infinity is equal to 2. This is infinite GP, so a upon 1 minus r would be equal to 2. So if I cross multiply, it becomes a is equal to 2 minus 2. So thrice of a is equal to 2. As a result, the value of a comes out to be 2 by 3. See, now you have got the value of n. As a result, you have also got the function. You can see that this function is 2 by 3 raised to the power. So once you have got this value in the third part, what they're asking is what is the value of f of 4 by f of 2. If I just substitute 2 by 3 raised to the power 4 by 2 by 3 raised to the power 2, the answer will become 2 by 3 raised to the power 2, that is 4 by 9. So option B comes out to be correct. Now this 2020 question is exactly same with different values. If you again look into this next question in 2019, again the same question with different values. So they are repeating the same question over and over again. Again, same question was asked in 2023 as well. With minor changes in values, they are asking the same question over and over again. Now here there is a change of function. You can see that f of x plus y is equal to f of x plus f of y. Now when can this happen? So this can happen for a function that looks like kx. So if I am putting f of x plus y, it will become kx plus y, and then f of x would be equal to kx. F of y will be equal to ky. You can see that all of them would be equal if you add them. So it is satisfying the bill. Now in order to find the value of k, there might be something given in the question. You can clearly see that f of 1 is given. If I put 1 here, the answer is 2. So the value of k comes out to be 2. From here we have got our function. It is equal to 2x. Now let us look into the question what they are asking after this. This becomes the actual question. They are saying that Gn, we need to write summation from k is equal to 1 to n minus 1 for 2x. This is what we need to do. Now 2k. Since they are writing in terms of k, it is better to write k here. So now what we are doing is, if you write it down, this would be equal to 1, then 2, and this you are doing till n minus 1. So you can directly use the formula n into n minus 1 by 2. In place of n, put n minus 1 divided by 2. So this cancels out. So this is what we are getting. Now what they're saying is, this is your gn function. Okay, this is my gn. Now what is the value in the fourth part when gn is equal to 20? So n minus 1 into n is equal to 20. So you can see that the value of n will be equal to 5 only. And option C matches. In this 2023, again you can see similar function is again getting asked. So there is a repetition of simple functions only most of the time. So they are playing clever in this question. So they are trying to mix or think of a slight variations of what we did earlier. So what we can do in this case is, you can consider the function as a raised to the power x by 2. This minor variation takes care of the property that is given to you, because now if you write f of x plus y, it becomes a raised to the power x plus y by 2, wherein the right hand side will become f of x 2 times into f of y. So you can see that 2 times a raised to the power x by 2, a raised to the power y by 2, both of this will come out to be this minor variation. And this you have to observe. If you observe this, in order to find the value of a, they have given the value at 1. So in the second step, we can put 1 here. So f of 1 is equal to 2. So that would be a by 2 is equal to 2. So a comes out to be 4. This is what is given to us. Now once this is given, you can now clearly see that the function that is given to me can be written as fx is equal to 4 raised to the power x by 2. This is my function. Now you can see that once you understand this, finding this summation is not a big task. You can put the value, find the summation. And what they're asking is not the value, they are wanting us to find the value of alpha. So we'll do it in the third step. Now what they're saying is f of alpha plus k. So if I write, it will become 4 raised to the power alpha plus k and divide by 2. that is equivalent to 4 raised to the power alpha by 2 into 4 raised to the power k. Now why are we doing this? Because if I apply the summation sign, summation of k is equal to 1 to 10. So I can take this 4 raised to the power alpha by 2 outside, 4 raised to the power k remain inside. So this becomes 4 raised to the power alpha by 2, 4 raised to the power 1, 4 raised to the power 2 till 4 raised to the power 10, which in turn will become 4 raised to the power alpha by 2 into a into r raised to the power n minus 1 by 4. If I simplify this, I should get my answer. Now they are saying that this is equal to 2 raised to the power 20. Now they are saying that this is equal to 5 and 2 by 3. 5 and 2 by 3 into 2 raised to the power 10 minus 1. So this 2 raised to the power 10 minus 1 can be cancelled out. Here this 3 can also be cancelled out. So now if you look into what have we got is 4 raised to the power alpha into 2 is equal to 5 and 2. We can divide, this will become 256. 256 is 4 raised to the power 4, and hence the value of alpha comes out to be. That is option C. Now the next category of questions are based on substitution. So in this 2023 question, the question says that you have a functional equation given. So there are two ways. Either we solve this functional equation, the method would largely be the same, or we can directly find the value of f2. So what I will do is I will put the value of x as 2. This seems simple for most students. So if I put 2 here, it becomes f of 2 by f of 1 minus 2. The answer comes out to be 1 plus 2. And once I have done this, f of 2 plus f of minus 1 would be equal to 3. Now you know that if you want to get the value of f of 2, you will have to get the value of f of minus 1. So for getting that, we can substitute the value of x as minus 1 in the initial functional equation. Now this becomes f of minus 1 plus f of 1 upon 1 plus 1. It will be equal to 1 minus 1. So you can see that this comes out to be 0. So f of minus 1 plus f of 1 by 2 is equal to 0. Now again, in order to find the value of f of minus 1, we'll have to put the value of x as 1 by 2. So if you substitute the value of 1 by 2, then becomes f of 1 by 2 plus f of 1 upon 1 minus 1 by 2 will be equal to 1 plus 1 by 2. You can see that right hand side becomes 3 by 2. On the other hand, what we have got now is f of 1 by 2. And if I simplify this, this becomes f of 2 is equal to 3 by 2. Now we have got 3 equations and 3 unknowns. So what can we do? From the second equation, now what we can do is basically we can take first equation, second equation, third equation and solve them. So for solving, this was my first part. In the second step, I can subtract from equation 2 equation 3. And if I do so, what am I getting? I am getting f of minus 1 minus f of 2. This value will be equal to minus 3 by 2. Now once I have got these values, the next step would be to get the value of f of minus 1 in terms of f of 2 here. So this becomes f of 2 minus 3 by 2. Now we can take this value in the step 3 and substitute in equation 1. So f of 2 is 2 only, but f of 1 became f of 2 minus 3 by 2. This is equal to 3. If I simplify, 2 times f of 2 would be equal to 3 plus 3 by 2. This comes out to be 6 plus 3, 9 by 2. So value of f of 2 comes out to be 9 by 4. Let us check if this matches any option. So matches option A. Now this 2022 question is exactly same. Start by putting the value of x as 14 and from there if you follow up you will get your answer. Another question that came was 2022 question. In this question it is slightly different. What they are saying is 1, 2, 3, 4 is given. Mod of A lies between 8. So what they are saying is the possible values of A here can be from -8, -7, 0, 1, 2, 3 till 8. This is what they're saying by writing this. Now what they're saying is f of n plus f of 1 by n plus 1 is equal to 1, n is equal to 1 to 3. How many functions are there and that satisfy this idea? Now here you will have to actually go ahead and figure out how many mappings are possible. So if I put the value of n is 1, let us see what happens. This becomes f of 1 plus f of 2 is equal to 1. You have got the first relation. Now if I put the value of n is 2, this becomes 2 plus 1 by 2 times f of 3. This is also equal to 1. And then if I put n as 3, because these are the only 3 values that are permissible to be substituted, then f of 3 plus 1 by 3 times f of 4, this is equal to 1. Now in step 2, what we should realize is, this is possible when I take the value of f of 4, because mind here that 1, 2, 3, 4, all of them are getting mapped to integers. None of these values can be non-integer. So what can be the possible values of f of 4? So in first case, I can consider this value as 6. Now if I take this value as 6, let us see what happens to the value of other things that are involved. So if I put this value as 6 here in the last equation, third equation that is written here, what will happen is f of 3 plus, if I put 6 here, this becomes 2, becomes 1, f of 3 becomes minus 1. If f of 3 becomes minus 1, let us see what happens to the value of f of 2. So you can see that this value, now if it goes here, it will become a non-integer item. So now what we can see from here is, this value can't be equal to 6. It will not work out. Now let us try another value. Let us take f of 4 as 3. Now if I take f of 4 as 3, in this scenario, let us again solve the last equation. So now f of 3 in this scenario will become 0. So f of 3 becomes 0. If f of 3 becomes 0, if I put this value in equation 2 up, so f of 2 plus 0 is equal to 1. F of 2 becomes 1. And if 2 is 1, f of 1 will become 0. And this is totally possible. We can have this mapping into place because they are not saying that the mapping is 1 to 1. So this is the possible scenario. This is okay. Second scenario, now third scenario would be if I take the value of f of 4 as 0. Now if I consider f of 4 as 0, let us see again and work out the values for all of these. If I put it in the last equation, f of 3 becomes 0, f of 3 becomes 1. If f of 3 is 1, f of 2 will become non-integer, so this value is not possible. So now you can see a pattern here that all the values of f of 4 which are even, that those cases won't be possible. So now next I will check at f of 4 is equal to minus 3. If I consider value as minus 3, in this case f of 3 will come out to be 2 and f of 3 is 2, then f of 2, if I put in this equation, will become 0. And if f of 2 becomes 0, f of 1 will be equal to minus. You can see that this is possible. Next value of f of 4 that can happen is minus 6. But since this is an even number, again there would be no solution. You can see that out of 4 cases that were possible, and we considered this 4 values for f of 4 only because these were multiples of 3. Only 2 are possible, hence A option becomes correct. Now in this next 2021 question, we can't just do by substituting the values of x and y. In this case, we will have to figure out the function as well. So what are we doing here? We are using the classical technique of figuring out the functions by doing substitution. So we have already been given the functional equation a into f of x plus alpha into f of 1 by x is equal to bx plus beta by x. So what are we doing in order to solve this is, we are replacing x by 1 by x. This is how we solve such kind of equations. If I do so, what are we getting? A into f of 1 by x plus alpha into f of x is equal to b by x plus beta x. Once we have done that, the next step would be to add both of these. So if I add a plus alpha times f of x plus alpha plus a times f of 1 by x is equal to b plus beta times x plus b plus beta times 1 by x. Once you have this, now you have got all the values. A plus alpha is equal to 1. So this becomes f of x, f of 1 by x. This will be equal to 2x, 2 by x. So f of x plus f of 1 by x divide by x plus 1 by x would be equal to 2. Now the interesting part of this 2023 question is, it is based on method of difference that is there in sequence and series. How so? Let us see that. In the first part, the primary techniques of substitution remain same. So if we have this functional equation, del x into f of x is equal to x plus 1 fx. So what we can do here is, instead of x, I can substitute the value till x minus 1 only. And if I do so, just one integer short. So this will become x minus 1, x f of x minus 1. This is my first equation, this is my second equation. Once I've got this, I can subtract them. If I do, let us see what do I get. All of these terms will get cancelled out. I will get x into f of x will be equal to x plus 1 fx minus x minus 1 x f of x minus. You can see that if x gets cancelled out, we have got in the first part fx as x plus 1 fx minus x minus 1 f of x minus. Once we have this, we can write x into fx in the second part minus x minus 1 into f of x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now if I start putting values of x, we will have to put the value of x as 3 here. Why 3? I will explain you in a minute. So if I put 3 here, this becomes 3 into f of 3 minus 2 into f of 2 is equal to 0. Now similarly, we will put the value of x as 4. So this will become 4 into f of 4 minus 3 into f of 3 equal to 0. So the value comes out to be x into f of x minus x minus 1 into f of x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now if I add all of these up, you can see that alternate terms will start cancelling out. And what I get here is the value of x into f of x. That would be 2 into f of 2 is equal to 0. Now if I figure out the value of 2 from the original equation, you can see that that value comes out to be 1 by 4. You can easily do it by doing substitution. And if I substitute that value here, the value of x into f of x will become 1 by 2. And as a result, f of x is 1 by 2x. You can see that since the right hand side is not of the form x minus 1 into x minus 1, if we put 1 in the original equation, hence we can't start with 2, we'll have to start with 3. Once we have done that, now let us go to the third part where we have to find the value of f of 2022. This will be 1 by 2 into 2022. And f of 2028 will be 1 upon 2 into 2028. Now if I put all of these values and add their reciprocals, my answer comes out to be 8100. Now if I look into this 2017 question, it is again based on substitution but of a different type. We have to figure out the value of a, b and c in this question in order to solve it. So what we can do is we can put the value of x and y as 1 first. If I do so, f of 2 would be equal to f of 1 plus f of 1 plus 1. Now we know that this value is given as 3. This value is also 3. This value is 1. So answer comes out to be 7. This is the first part. Another way of writing the same thing would be, if I put the value of 2 in the function that is given to me, this becomes 4a plus 2b plus c, that is equal to 7. Now, if I put the value of x as 2 and the value of y as 1 in the same equation that is given to me, what will happen is f of 3 would be equal to f of 2 plus f of 1 plus 2. Now, f of 2 we already figured out was 7. So, this is 7, this is 3, this is 2. It adds up to 12. Another way of saying this story would be 9a plus 3b plus c is equal to 12. Now, you have 3 unknowns and 3 equations. So, we know that a plus b plus c was 3. So, we can solve them up. Now, what is the method of solving? It is very simple. We'll subtract this from this and we'll subtract this from this. If I subtract the first two, what do we get is 3 times a plus b, this is equal to 4. And if I subtract it from the next one, it becomes 5 times a plus b, this is equal to 5. Now, if I subtract these two, again, we'll repeat the process. We get the value of 2a is equal to 1. So, the value of a becomes 1 by 2. Now, once we know the value of a, we can again substitute in either of the equations that we had earlier. If I put it in the first one, I have 3 by 2 plus b is equal to 4. So, from b, 4 we are subtracting 1.5, so we will get 2.5. 2.5 is 5 by 2. And if I put all of these values in the first equation, a plus b plus c is equal to 3. So, a plus b plus c is equal to 3. So, half and 2.5 will become 3. So, c comes out to be 0. Now, we have got all the values a, b, c correspondingly. So, this was my first step. This was my second step. In the third step, we have already got the function. It is ax square. So, x square by 2 plus 5 by 2x. Now, what they are saying is basically you apply summation till 10. So, if I apply summation on this till 10, n equal to 1 to 10, f of n, this will become summation from n equal to 1 to 10, n square by 2 plus 5 by 2, n is equal to 1 to 10 n. So, answer comes out to be half we can take common, n into n plus 1. So, 10 into 11, n plus 1, 21 by 6. And this becomes 5 times n into n plus 1 by 2. Now, let us simplify and see whether our answer matches or not. So, if I simplify this, this becomes 7, this becomes 2, this also cancels out, becomes 5, this also cancels out, becomes 5. Now, you can see that 5 and 11 we can take common. So, that is 55 by 2 can be written outside. What we have left is 7 here. What is left here is 5. This comes out to be 12. So, 55 into 6 would be left. 6 into 5 is 30. 6 into 5 is 30. So, 330 should be our answer. So, option A matches. Now, if you look into the next question, that is 22 question, it is similar kind of question based on similar ideas. That is the reason I took this an old 2017 question. Now, type 10 is counting these questions. Now, there are some standard formulas based on number of relations, number of functions, number of one function, one onto functions, number of onto functions. I will put that all of those formulas in the form of an overlaying sheet here. Now, if you have gone through that, you will see that few of them can be applied in solving PYQs, but a lot of these PYQs can be solved using logic. So, let us start with the first problem, that is satisfying a relation. So, question would be given where they are asking us to count the number of functions where a relation is getting satisfied. Now, again in this 2024 question, there is a mapping that is given to us. In this mapping, they are saying that we need to have one-to-one functions, but as I said, direct formulas won't be applicable because they might put some condition into it. I put the condition that f of 1 plus f of 3 will be equal to 40. So, now we will have to first understand and then apply P and C to get the answer. So, f of 1 plus f of 3. So, what can be the possible values of 1 and 3? So, if I make a small table to understand how many cases might be possible. So if I take the value of f of 1 from the B set as 2, then correspondingly for getting 14 this needs to be 12. Then if I take the value as 4, then there is a 10 number available. 5 I can't take because 9 is not available. 7 I can't take because 7 comma 7 is not available. And then I will have to take 8. So now what will happen is, corresponding to 8 we have nothing. Again, this is not possible. So only possible case would be 10 and then again 4 and then 12 and again 2. So these are the only 4 cases that are possible because we want one-to-one function, otherwise 7 could have come. Once we have got this, now if I pick any of these 4 cases, then what will happen? Let us check in case of mapping what is happening. So in this case, now we will see that here I can write 1, 3, 7, 9 and 11. Here we can write 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. If I take just the first case in which 1 is getting mapped to 2 and 3 is getting mapped to 12. If I only take these 3 cases, now these 3 elements, since this is a one-to-one function, will map to any 3 elements on the other side. So what I can do is, out of the 5 elements available, I can choose any 3. And now these 3 elements can be mapped to, let us say those were these 3 elements. So this can be mapped to each other in 3 factorial ways. So this becomes my answer. Now we know that there are not 1 but 4 such cases. So answer becomes 4 into 5c3 into 3 factorial. If you calculate, this comes out to be 240. That is option C. Now this 2023 question is a slightly more difficult version of, or more complex version of the same question. So let us, in order to understand this question first, let us make a map, so that we understand what is happening. So on A, what we have is to map 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. On the right hand side we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So now earlier we were given only 2 things whose sum was constant. Here we have 3 things. So we'll have to consider cases now. In first case, I can take the value of f of 4 as the maximum value that can happen, that is 6. So what I have done is, in this case I have mapped 4 to 6. This kind of mapping I have done. Once I have done this mapping, what can I understand? The value of f of 1 plus f of 2 would be equal to 5. And once this is 5, now you can see that what are the possible values of f of 1 and 2 that can happen. So if I make a small table, you will be able to understand. We have 1 here, we have 2 here. And if I consider the values, f of 1 would be equal to, this can become 1, then this becomes 4. Then this can become 2, so this becomes 3, then 3, 2, 4, 1. So you can see that there are 4 possible cases. Now let us take one of any of these cases. So you can see that 1 is getting mapped to 4 and 2 is getting mapped to 1. You can see that if I take one of these cases, and what I have considered is case number 4. In this also every element remaining, so there are 2 elements now remaining that have not been mapped, that is 3 and 5. Each of these elements can be mapped to any of these cases because the question does not say it is a one-to-one function. So correspondingly, you can see that there could be 6 into 6, 36 solutions. So if I calculate total solutions that can be there in this case, it becomes 4 into 36. See, now I have understood that in my first case, when f becomes 4, total number of cases are 4 into 36. Now let us consider another case. So now what I am doing, so now I have understood that when f became 4, the total number of possible cases were 4 into 36. Now consider another case. Now here, if I take a slightly lesser value, that is 5, you can see that here this will get mapped to 5. And if I do so, in the next step also, this will become 4 because this is less by 1 unit. And now the possible cases will also change in this table. You can see that the process almost remains same. But now this can become 1, 3. 2, 2 and 3, 1. These are the possible cases. So now you can see that these cases instead of 4 became 3. But even if I do this mapping, let us consider one of these cases and map it. You can now say that 1 will get mapped to 1. It is the first part, and then 2 gets mapped to 3. Still, you can see the process after that remains same. 3 can still be mapped to any of the 6 values. 5 can still be mapped to any of the 6 values. So these 36 cases will remain same. So what will happen is ultimately what will change is here. It will become 3 into 36 cases. See that when f of 6 was 6, it became 4 into 36. It was 5, it became 3 into 36. Now let us consider this value as 4 and see what happens. So if I make this value 4, this will become 3, and correspondingly the cases will also change. So now let us see how many cases are possible. So now what can happen is this can become 1, this becomes 2, this becomes 2, this becomes 1. So you can see that total 2 cases are possible, and correspondingly we did this earlier, it also becomes 2 into 36. So when f of 4 is equal to 4, the total number of cases are 2 into 36. I think one more case might be possible when we take this value as 3. When we take this value as 3, sum becomes 2, and when sum becomes 2, this can only happen when this becomes 1, this also becomes 1. And now you can see that there is only one value here, and hence this also becomes 1. So we have understood that when f of 4 comes out to be 3, corresponding to that there is only one value. Now our final answer would be sum of all these possible cases. So there are 4 plus 3, 7, 7 plus 2, 9 plus 1, 10. So 10 into 36 cases. Answer comes out to be 360. Now this 2022 question is similar kind of question based on similar idea. In this next 2023 question, we will have to check for different cases that might be possible. So let us say that if I take the value of m as 1 and then the value of n as n only. So what will happen? This will become f of 1 into f of n. On the left hand side, this comes out to be f of n is equal to f of 1 into f of n. N gets cancelled out because n can't be equal to 0. F of 1 becomes equal to 1. So you can see that whatever mapping or functions we are mapping, 1 will always be equal to 1. Second part that we need to understand is, instead of 1, if I put 2, then what happens? So if I take 2 and then start considering value here. So 1, I can't put it, I largely would get nothing. What I can put is 3, but then f of 6 is not there in the domain. So this also I can't put. 4 I can't put because then 8 is also not, 8 is there. So now this can be done, but then if I do so, f of 2 into f of 4 comes and f of 4 is not there. So you can see that corresponding to 2, there is none of the values that would be in the domain. So I can't put 2 here. Another value that I can try is 3. Now corresponding to 3, I can't put 2. The only thing that I can put is 3 because this will become 3 into 3. So this becomes 9, and 9 is also present here, and this becomes f of 3 ka whole square. Now after this, if I look into any other value that I would be able to put, like 4, I can't put because if I put 4 here, this will become 4 into 2, 8, but then f of 4 is not present. So this will also not work out for me. And after this, none of the values will work out. So you can see that only 2 constraints it is putting in terms of mapping. One is f of 1 is equal to 1 and f of 3, the whole square should be equal to 9. So now you can see that if I consider the value of f of 3 as 1, in that scenario, my f of 9 will also be equal to 1. And then if I consider the value of this as 3, then my f of 9 becomes 9. So only these two values would be possible in this case. So now what you can understand is, largely speaking, if I talk in terms of mapping, how many cases do we have? So we know that f of 1 will be equal to 1. And then what I can have is value of f of 3. This is my first case. Can be equal to 1 and f of 9 can be equal to 1. And another possibility is f of 3 is equal to 3 and f of 9 becomes 9. So you can see that these are the only possibilities that I have. And in this first case, now if I take any of these cases and understand what kind of mappings are possible, let us write it out. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 and 9. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8 and 9. So you will see that corresponding to 1 will be mapped. Corresponding to 3, the value is 1. I am typing the first case, and corresponding to 9, the value is still 1. This leaves these two elements, 2, 5 and 8, with having all the 6 choices. So what I am trying to tell is basically other elements will have 6 choices. So 6 into 6 into 6 in this case, and 6 into 6 into 6 in this case. If I add them, I get my final answer. So if you do this calculation, it adds up to 430. Now let us look into this very interesting 2024 question. Question says that you have a set A from 1 to 7 that is getting mapped to its power set. So if I draw my set A, this is how it looks like, and power set of A is something on the right, and this is the mapping that we are trying to form. This is my function f. Now this is not just the question, because if this has been the question, the answer would have been 2 raised to the power 7 choices for every element raised to the power 7. Answer would have become 2 raised to the power 49 total functions. But they've added an extra element to the question, that is they are saying that A belongs to f of A for all A belongs to A. That would mean if I am trying to map 1, now that 1 can be mapped to a set containing 1 itself. So it could be either this, or it could be 1, 2, or it could be 1, 3, like this. So it could be all such possible, but 1 needs to be there in the subset. This is what we are saying. So how many such sets are possible? You can see that such sets would be 2 raised to the power 6. You can see that corresponding to 1, there are 2 raised to the power 6 choices. Similarly for 2, there would be again same scenario, so 2 raised to the power 6 choices. And the answer to this question hence becomes 2 raised to the power 6 into 2 raised to the power 6. 2 raised to the power 6. So answer comes out to be 2 raised to the power 6 raised to the power 7. It becomes 2 raised to the power 42. So the value of m corresponding to this becomes 2, n is 42. They are asking the value of m plus n, that becomes 40. 60 days to JEE Mains. Let me tell you something that nobody else will. The brutal truth. Right now you have doubts from class 11th you never cleared. Topics you are avoiding, formulas that you kind of remember. And you are thinking 60 days is enough to fix everything. Here's the reality. It's not if you study randomly. At PYQs we have produced 10 times better result than national average and helped more than 500 plus students jump 80 plus marks in last 60 days. How? They stopped trying to cover everything and focused only on high weightage topics. They cleared every doubt. They had a strategy into place. And that's what Last Lab Booster program does. Senior ITN faculty sit with you and develop a 60-day roadmap. Expert teachers guide you 1:1 daily. Every doubt is cleared in 24 hours. Not random prep, but strategic warfare. Ashesh, Ditya, Sauri, Sarthak, we are all able to improve from 150 to 250 in a matter of 60 days. Real students, real result, 60 days. But time is less and our slots are even more limited. Click the link below, book a free strategy session or regret it on 1st Feb. 60 days, your move.